Retro Raw and Retro Nitro. We are 1 week away from all hell breaking loose. Backstage at Raw. Fights. Hair being yanked out. Whole 9 yards. What does this fucking business come to?
How dare a show about men fighting feature men fighting?
Dude, real fighting.
Well, I know.
Come on. Pulling out a man's hair, yelling about sunny days. It's like we're dealing with children here. It's ridiculous. And this is your main man.
Yours too.
Shawn Michaels.
Mine, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes, everyone.
What an idiot.
Well, yeah.
I love the guy, but we'll get to that next week.
Hey, can you mute this real quick so I can adjust it?
What are you adjusting?
I want it to come up.
Just tilt it up a little bit.
Why does he have to mute it?
Yeah, we'll have to mute it. Okay.
I don't want you to...
No, don't do that. Just tilt it up. There's a reason for it. Just put it down and then tilt it up. Like tilt the... There we go.
But what should we do with the microphone?
Excuse me?
No.
All right, let's get going.
Retro Raw number 212, June 2nd, 1997. He opened with a recap of last week's show. And with a slow-mo replay and from a different angle, it was thankfully clear that Steve Austin's head did not drive itself into the metal stage, although it was very close.
You know, that reminds me, it's just jumping right ahead to Nitro.
Why do I bother having a format or anything?
No, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. You're right. And it reminded me that on Nitro, do you remember when the Barbarian gave Benoit that front suplex on the ropes, and
Yes.
it looked like it killed him?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. They show a replay, and it was abundantly clear it wasn't nearly that bad.
It looked awful bad.
This brings up the question, if it looked like Steve Austin was killed last week, why would you show a replay that reveals that, in fact, it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it was?
Well, it's because
That's my whole point.
he was doing a tackle.
Yeah.
You would not want to show him killing himself doing a tackle. That makes him look stupid.
Well, sure, but I'm just bringing up the point that sometimes you see a thing that looks really, really great, like Shane's jump when he fell off the cage and went through the table, and it looked like he goddamn near killed himself. And then they showed another replay, it looked deadly. Another replay, it looked deadly. And finally they go to the fourth camera, where you could see a giant crash pad underneath the table,
Yes.
and they show that angle, and it was like, why did you do that? Why did you reveal? Because I thought he nearly died. But after that last replay, I realized, that was stupid.
He could have died.
He could have died, but you just ruined it by showing an extra replay that you didn't need to show.
So Undertaker comes.
That was not my fault.
Can we start the entire show over, please?
No, it's-
Undertaker comes out for a promo. And we say this every week, but man, he has been cutting terrible promos for 2 decades now.
Oh, yeah. And he'd been in the business for a decade.
Which leads me, I had a horrifying thought. I have just assumed that he's just been doing the best he can with the crappy dialogue they give him. But it's been 20 years. Writers have come and writers have gone. What if he makes his own material?
Well, you know, when you're as respected as The Undertaker, you sometimes can do
That's
your
true.
own material.
That's true.
So maybe we can blame him.
So he was giving spooky and vague and cryptic comments. My favorite was, it's very simple, but it's very complicated. He said to protect innocent people in his past, he needed to rejoin Paul Bearer. He would face ridicule and persecution from the creatures of the night. He promised Bearer would burn in hell.
When you mentioned that other thing that he said, I loved when he said, I had to join Paul Bearer because Paul Bearer threatened to reveal a secret that would affect my loved ones. And then he says, I hope and I realize that I will get the ridicule of the fans. My creatures of the night, the ones I care about the most. And I was like, well, if you care about them the most, then shouldn't you just kill Paul Bearer? Right?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't care.
About this time, I did notice a sign in the crowd that basically said, we don't care about the secret, Undertaker.
Oh, little did they know.
Oh, God. So Bearer comes out. He runs down Taker for a while, but says they are now together, and together they will rule the world. This brings out Sid.
Because he is the ruler of the world.
He is the master and the ruler of the world, making his return to this show after, 6 weeks or so. He says, I lost my world championship to The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and I never asked for a rematch because Taker had worn that title with pride. But now, Taker has lowered himself to realign with scum like Paul Bearer, so I want my rematch and I want it tonight. Taker said he'd be happy to drop Sid on his head again. He accepted. And the Nation of Domination interrupted. Farooq said, in 1 week's time, a black man will be ruling the company, and no man who sold out to blackmail like Taker deserved to be champion. They sent Taker power striding up the aisle. Paul Bearer followed him, and that was that.
I love when the Nation of Domination comes down, they cut a promo on The Undertaker, and The Undertaker storms out of the ring, and he starts storming up the ramp of the Nation of Domination, and all they do is they calmly turn and they walk back through the curtain.
Yeah.
Because apparently it's like Sleepy Hollow. Once you get through that curtain, nothing can happen. They weren't running through the curtain.
No.
It was like, once we get through the curtain, we're safe.
It's like the old covered bridge.
Yes.
I was going to say, it's the reverse of a horror movie, where the young teenagers always run, but somehow the guy with the knife walks and always catches them.
Yes. So Sid was gone for a long time, and he came back here. He had claimed that his back was all injured. Apparently not bad enough that he couldn't do heavy deadlifts.
He was in shape.
He was totally jacked. And I guess he showed up and they said, well, what we're going to do is you are going to main event tonight against The Undertaker, and he's going to beat you. And Sid said something to the effect of, fuck you, I'm not doing a job for this man. And they said something to the effect of, no, fuck you, we'll fire you. And so Sid ended up doing the job.
Stories like this, and what we'll get into with Sean over the next couple of weeks, I'm so happy I'm not a promoter.
Can you imagine the temerity of this guy? He just took 6 weeks off or whatever, probably to play softball.
Oh, yeah.
And then he comes back and decides, I'm not doing a job for the champion.
For the champion.
Yeah.
Ahmed Johnson did a promo. I think he vowed to take Farooq out. I've invented a new word to describe Ahmed Johnson promos. Screambling.
Screambling?
Half screaming, half mumbling.
Huh. Scrumbling.
That may be better. So we got Farooq versus Ahmed with a long video package noting this feud had now been going on since July.
Yeah, 10 months.
Oh, my God. And there's no end in sight, by the way.
So Jim Ross is going over Ahmed's background, and I didn't know this, but apparently he was trained in part by Dick Murdoch.
So they said.
There's a training session I'd love to see.
You know, I don't know.
They were experimenting with new camera angles this week. And had a lot of handheld shots from the floor, a lot of handheld shots from a guy on the apron in the corner. Match went like 3 minutes. Taker ran out and attacked the Nation. The ref just stood there and watched. In hindsight, that was the theme of this night on both shows. Referees standing there watching illegal activity, doing nothing to stop it. So everyone's brawling on the floor. Taker whips Farooq into Ahmed. Ahmed goes flying into the stairs. And Farooq throws Ahmed into the ring and pins him. Ahmed, if you're listening, you got screwed. This is bullshit.
Do you know where this is all leading?
I do.
Okay. So actually, all of this makes perfect sense. This was a very... Now, granted, Ahmed was
Except that the ref should have called for a DQ.
Well, there is that too, but they were outside the ring. I don't know what the damn rules are.
So...
It was so funny.
It was about, I don't know, like maybe this week and last week, anything that went on outside the ring, the refs just totally disregard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nowadays, you hit somebody with a chair outside the ring, they call for immediate DQ.
Because you see, there are unwritten rules that we don't know about as fans, but they're actually enforced in the company. I'm not making it up. They must have just changed the rules, but they didn't bother to tell us that it's only a DQ if it's in the ring.
Okay.
It's like the 2-save rule. If you're doing a tag match and you make a save twice, they will call it as a shoot and they will disqualify you.
Which
has never been explained on television. You only get one save.
They did explain it on Nitro just months ago.
No, I'm talking today.
Oh, no. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, today.
My bad.
I also like Jim Ross questioning the logic of Farooq accepting a match and risking injury before his championship match on Sunday by facing
Ahmed Johnson. Hey, great questions.
I was like, that is a shoot.
That is fair.
Why did you agree to this match? This is the biggest match of Farouk's career.
Yeah, well, he already made event pay-per-views.
Well, sure, but I mean, Does anybody really count his
Ron Simmons versus Barbarian.
WCW
God
championship
bless
win?
Barbarian.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Taker and Ahmed are alone in the ring. Ahmed is angry at Taker. He wants to talk. He grabs him by the arm, spins him around. Taker blows him off so he can continue to give Farooq the stink eye. And Ahmed spins him around again. Taker's had enough of this. Chokeslams him. Now, Ahmed Johnson is a very, very large man. And if you watch this closely, you will see that Ahmed did very little to assist Undertaker in this chokeslam. And you know what? It didn't matter.
No.
Taker got this guy by the throat and lifted him into the air and slammed him down. That was scary. Hart Foundation came out for a promo. Bret is back on crutches following Austin's attack last week. So before anyone could even talk, Vince points to the Titantron where Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin are on a split screen. And he asks them, he says, everyone wants to know if Bret will compete at King of the Ring. Bret talks about Donovan Bailey, a Canadian sprinter who just beat an American from Texas with a bad leg and an excuse. That was funny. He finally said his doctors had advised him not to wrestle at King of the Ring. That means no dream match for Shawn, and Shawn can blame Austin for that. So Shawn says he could live with Austin leaving him high and dry last week for the Hart Foundation to kill him, but now Austin has stopped him from his chance of ridding the U.S. of Bret Hart forever. Austin and Shawn go back and forth for a while. What I got out of this was that Shawn was way overdue for an eyebrow waxing.
Oh, he got it next week.
Yes, he did, didn't he? Bret was doing him a favor.
He got it the next week.
I hadn't thought of that. So finally, Austin dares Michaels to come find him and fight. Shawn obliges. We see him walking through the halls trying to find Austin's locker room. They go face to face, but they agree they will fight their tag match tonight and then deal with each other after that. So they go back to the Hart Foundation for their reaction to all this silliness. And they're all smiles, and they have a huddle, and Bret whispers some secrets into Brian Pillman's ear. Pillman cackles, and he steps up to the mic and says, I have a deal for you. I will back out of my match against Steve Austin at King of the Ring, so Austin, you can wrestle Shawn that night. And Austin says, that's fine. I will whip Shawn's ass at the pay-per-view, and the night after that, I will whip your ass. This is not what Pillman was expecting. He and the other Harts were horrified.
I love so much about this. Bret backing out of a match like a coward, but blaming it on the other guys. Mm-hmm. And in blaming them, he turns them against each other. He says, Shawn, I'm not doing this match. You don't get your match, and it's your partner's fault. Because he knows that Shawn doesn't like his partner either. So he's shifting the heat. So then Shawn has this wacky line about how you can always count on a Canadian to smoke anyone in the U.S. Shawn says this.
Yes.
It was weird. I know. I
didn't. I thought about it and figured it out.
Yes. So then him and Austin are screaming at each other back and forth. Chests all pumped up, shouting and acting all tough. And Austin's like, I'll beat your ass anytime. Why don't you just come find me? I'm not a hard man to find. And Shawn says, fine, I'll come find you. Shawn storms out. He storms into the dude's locker room. And they talk. It's like, wow, that's a hell of a payoff, you two fucking tough guys. And they agree. I was like, nobody really wants to fight each other. That's what this whole thing is about. Bret doesn't want to fight Shawn.
No, I don't.
Steve and Shawn really don't want to fight each other, even though they don't like each other. Pillman doesn't want to fight anybody. At least we've agreed that Steve Austin does want to fight both men.
Let's be honest. Pillman shouldn't even be in the ring.
Oh, God, no.
No.
This was way better that he was not fighting anybody.
Bob Holly versus Owen Hart. So at least they did pay off Holly's upset win 2 weeks ago. He got a title match here.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
But he lost last week.
Well,
He got pinned last week, yeah.
I know.
They gave him, this is totally opposite of the way they booked now. They put him over in his hometown.
Yeah.
And then he went on a losing streak.
Yes. So Vince claimed that Bob Holly was a stock car racer in the off season.
Yeah, the wrestling off
I was not aware Raw had an off season.
Well, they do.
It's, opposite of softball season.
Apparently.
There is an off season for Sid, that's right.
So they had a very good, solid professional wrestling match. Early on, Holly hit a standing Hurricane Rana. But then when he tried it again a few minutes later, Owen caught him with a powerbomb, hooked a sharpshooter for the win. And Sparkplug Holly was a death gimmick, but you can see how talented this guy was.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy. And we had a clean win by the heel over the babyface challenger in a championship match. Because whatever you want to think about the Harts and their cowardice and how they want to always take the easy way out, at the end of the day, they are badasses. Owen is the champion of all of the continental United States.
This was the second of 6 matches that went less than 3 or just over 3 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
They've been watching Nitro.
Apparently.
They're stealing the format.
So Owen gets his win. He grabs his belt, and he does not walk. He does not jog. He runs up the ramp to celebrate with his buddies because the Hart Foundation were great. Shawn does a backstage promo.
Shawn was actually in a acceptable state of mind this week, and he still bumbled his way through this promo.
He accepted Austin's challenge for King of the Ring and said Pillman could have whatever was left of Austin on Raw the next day. They hyped up more of the Mankind interviews.
Are you skipping over the Headbangers and Honky Tonk Man, or is that later?
That's about to happen.
Okay.
They hyped up more of the Mankind interviews, and not news, but when he had that match against Taker and took the head first bump through the table, that's completely insane.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I've seen this before 100 times before, but I haven't seen it in a while. And they've showed it once, and I thought, holy crap, and I watched this, and I thought, forget even thinking about doing this. I don't know how he pulled that off.
I'm sure they gimmicked the table.
It must have.
I'm sure they did, but still. You know, the other thing is later they showed footage of some of his death matches in Japan. And there is a spot where he gets it's like a choke slam or something on a board, and there's tacks on the board.
Okay.
And you're thinking, man, sucks to be choke slamming on a tacks. But then you watch it, and it's like, forget the tacks. That was the worst fucking bump. He took it on his head and shoulders.
Yes.
I was like, forget the thumbtacks.
So remember, I think he was wrestling Terry Gordy in that match.
Oh, my God. They talk about not taking care of a guy.
My son actually turned his head away from the television and got up and left the room.
Wow.
At that point. He was not happy.
Young Cameron is not the kind of young feller that should be watching a dude take a chokeslam headfirst on a tax.
It turns out
I understand that.
FMW death matches are not family-friendly entertainment. Now we have the fearsome
I just
foursome.
saw this, and I just knew you'd be all over it.
The brain trust of Jim Cornette, the Honky Tonk Man, and the Headbangers. They conspired to set a trap for Sonny. Their plan was the
Shouldn't you call the cops when you hear about something like this? Jim Cornette and the Headbangers.
And the Honky Tonk Man.
And the Honky Tonk Man are setting a trap for Sonny.
Yes.
They used the wrong bait, for sure.
There was no right bait.
I was going to say, what's the right bait?
The plan was
Brett?
I don't want to make any accusations.
Cornette and Honky. I will not say anything.
Yeah.
Cornette and Honky would wave to Sonny from the end of a long hallway in the arena, so like where you get the concession stands and stuff. So it's like 30 feet wide, and she's 50 feet away. They'll wave at her and tell her to come on over and say hi, and then the Headbangers will jump out from behind the corner and shoot her with squirt guns. So, what this led to was the camera is like where Honky and Cornette are. It shows them. They're like, hey, Sonny, come on, what's going on? The camera does a 180, so you see Sonny way over yonder. And then the camera pans left and right, so you see the Headbangers grinning out of control, giggling, and furiously pumping their squirt guns.
It's kind of lewd.
Just when you thought this ad campaign had peaked in graphic sexual imagery, they go there.
Wetter's better.
Wetter is better. So it turns out she soaked all of them.
Oh.
Soaked, I said.
Soaked.
Turning the tables there.
Yeah.
You know, I've never interviewed the Headbangers. And I know that I always say, I'm sure such and such is a nice guy, but I really do think they're probably really nice guys. So goddamn annoying on this show. Like, infuriatingly annoying. On Raw in 1997. Think of the ground that covers.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Goldust in a match I feel like I've seen about 18 times now.
Jim Ross said this is fast becoming the most heated rivalry in the WWE.
I thought he said the most hated.
Well, that's kind of where my brain went.
They announced that the winner was going to get a European title match against the British Bulldog next week. Bulldog won that title over 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And he has never defended it on Raw, they said.
No.
This is going to be his first ever title defense on Raw. That's what they said.
Craig, you look confused.
I'm just thinking. I always look confused when I'm thinking.
That's why I try to avoid it myself.
I could have sworn he defended it the next week in like a rematch against Owen, didn't he?
They had a match with Owen, but that was the one that ended in a brawl and Bret ran out.
Oh, that's right. But that should have been considered a defense.
I don't know.
Anyway, 3 months, the exchange rate for the international European title.
I just like that Vince, in explaining this, says, there's something on the line here. This match, it matters who wins.
Yeah.
Because even in 97, most of the time it didn't. So Chyna tries to interfere. Marlena grabs her leg. Goldust goes after Chyna. Hunter goes after Goldust. Hunter bonks into Chyna. Goldust schoolboys Hunter and pins him. The only thing I got to add is that Marlena was very easy on the eyes this evening.
I
The spunky Marlena.
could not believe they put her in like a very, very fancy, nice sheer dress. And so she wore nothing under it except a thong.
She wore what appeared to be a thong swimsuit with a lace dress over it.
Yeah.
Fine. I endorse this.
I liked that Chyna gets hit with a flying knee by Hunter. Barely sells it. They announced this week that her bench press is 400 pounds.
I was getting stronger.
It goes up every week. And they announced, and keep in mind that she once did celebrity boxing and got destroyed by Joey Buttafuoco, who had no experience whatsoever. They announced that Chyna was a licensed boxer. I did not know that. Nor do I believe it.
The Road Warriors did a backstage promo vowing to kick Michael's teeth down Austin's throat,
That's what happened.
which Vince laughed at.
He did. He thought that was hilarious.
It's a heck of a kick.
And then we got something of a forgotten dream match. Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin versus the Road Warriors.
You know what's funny is last week they had that match with Owen and Bulldog, which was so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading the Observer this week about this show, and Dave was talking about the Legion of Doom match. And he made some comment about how it wasn't quite as good as last week. But it was very good until the finish. And I thought, I have no memory of this match whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have been that good. Mm-hmm. So I went back and watched it, and Shawn was great, but this was a total nothing match.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was anything special.
It was not nearly as good as last week's match, of course. I enjoyed it. Shawn Michaels is awesome. I was mostly just... my favorite thing about this was...
Heat on Hawk?
Well, okay. So here's... You got the Road Warriors. Fans like them. And fans like Shawn... And I wouldn't say Steve Austin's a babyface, but they like him too. So it's hard... There's no natural heel in this, but somebody... And I'm just going to presume Shawn... Somebody said, listen, our gimmick is that we don't like each other. Therefore, if we overwhelm the Road Warriors from the get-go, it's going to make them look really bad. So we'll be the heels in this match, and for a while, they will kick our ass. And I watched Shawn grab a headlock, hit the ropes, do a shoulder block, but take the bump for Hawk. And I watched that like 5 times in a row. It is so much better to do a simple thing very, very well than to do a complicated thing okay.
That is absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah.
That is the story of wrestling.
It is.
You don't need a lot of moves. You just need a few moves that you do very, very well.
I also, by the way, I like everyone on the show. Most of them have pyro. They all have their own light show. They all have their own Titantron video. And out comes Steve Austin. No pyro, no lights, not even a Titantron. He has music and one spotlight on him as he goes down to the ring. That is cool.
I did like at the beginning of this match, they showed the LOD winning the tag belts at SummerSlam 91 over the Nasty Boys.
Yes.
Thumbing their nose at WCW.
Yeah.
Nasty's in? Yeah, they are, I guess, aren't they?
They have not been seen in months.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So,
What a job they had in WCW. They would show up, vanish for years,
and get paid.
show up again, and then there was that one match where Knobs fell out of the building or something like that.
The last time we saw him, he fell over a railing outside the building.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we never saw him again.
Never saw him again.
And he was paid every week after that.
Good for him.
It is amazing to look back, and there were so many guys not even by the end, there were so many guys so desperate to get out of that company, and so many guys who had it so good.
Dude, I got the printout of what everybody was making in the late 90s, just this giant list. They had I can't even remember. It was some just ridiculous number of people under contract.
Yeah.
Names that I'd never seen on television.
Yeah.
Names that I'd seen like 5 times. Mm-hmm. Names that I thought, I could have sworn this guy was out of here in 95.
And still getting a 5-digit...
He's being paid in 2000.
Like getting a 5-digit check every month.
What was that number the Honky Tonk Man was talking about, that he had gotten paid like 8 months and hadn't ever flown to a city or anything?
Oh, dude, there were, I don't think...
Poffo never made TV.
Yeah, Lanny Poffo was never on TV one time. He got paid for 3 years. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Unbelievable.
Every time I hear that, I regret all my life decisions. Anyway,
Dude,
Shawn and Austin...
you're probably making more now than Lanny is.
I'm going to guess that Lanny has been wise enough with his cash and his brother's cash that he's okay.
Well, there is that, yes.
Anyway, Shawn and Austin were a fantastic heel team. They were just double teaming behind the rest back and doing illegal tags and stuff, using belts as weapons to try to win. They just said, screw it. We're going to be the bad guys on this show. And then they did have a crap finish. The Hart Foundation's out there. Animal's making his comeback. He's drop kicking guys left and right and punching guys left and right. And he punches Shawn, and Shawn takes an amazing over-the-top rope bump to the floor. He was not next to the ropes. He had to leap flying through the sky to take this bump. And he gets out there, and the Hart Foundation have been out there distracting both teams. So Shawn starts jaw-jacking with them. This pisses Austin off. He leaves the ring to grab Shawn by the hair and drag him back into the match. Shawn does not take kindly to this. These two start brawling with each other, and they are both counted out.
Can I talk about the real fight that they had outside? They're having a brawl. Steve Austin tries to drag him back to the ring by the hair because he's distracted by these other idiots, and they need to win a match. So they start throwing punches, and in this alleged real fight, Shawn Michaels performs a small package into the mount and then starts laying in punches.
Yeah. Why not?
There was another brawl outside that involved a small package. What is it with guys that didn't know what they were doing small packages in real fights?
I don't know. So, a bullshit finish, but it was a bullshit finish that built perfectly with the pay-per-view match. And the graphic came up and it read, just to make things absolutely clear, Road Warriors, or Mesa Legion of Doom, but winners by countout do not win tag titles.
True.
Which would be a good fortune cookie now that I think about it.
Remember that fortune cookie you got at the original Super China buffet? Something about you had an iron construction.
Iron Constitution or something.
It was like an iron construction. I don't think it was Constitution. Maybe
I'm fairly certain it was Constitution.
Maybe it was.
We had the latest Mankind sit-down interview. They showed Jack Foley losing to the British Bulldogs in 1986. He talked about unveiling the sadistic side of his personality in Cactus Jack. And he had still shots and video of him bleeding all over the place and falling off scaffolds and barbed wire and thumbtacks and explosives and all that garbage. And he said that for the first time there, when he was fighting in those death matches, he said he had dignity and he wasn't sure he had it anymore. He showed off his barbed wire scars on his arm and recited poetry about, "He who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother." This proved he was not alone. He pointed to the scars in his arm and his missing ear and his other cuts and scrapes here and there and said, "This is a road map and a diary of all my travels and all the places I've been." And he told the story, which is, taking him at his word, but it's true in his book. He went from the King of the Deathmatch tournament, reeking of blood and burned flesh, straight out of the hospital, no shower, no cleanup, onto the airplane. And the woman sitting next to him in first class left her first class seat to go sit and coach because he was so gross.
And they showed a picture of the burnt flesh that went from halfway up his bicep all the way to his wrist.
Yes, this is a nasty wound.
I love when he tells the story, he kind of gives the impression that, can you believe this woman actually left first class to go back and sit and coach? Because I was covered in blood, smelled like burnt flesh, and hadn't showered.
And sweaty, yeah.
The temerity of this woman. Like, I'm surprised they allowed you to board the plane.
She gave away money because of that.
I swear to God, I was downstairs an hour ago, and there was a news story.
I know this one.
They wouldn't allow this woman to get on an airplane at SeaTac.
No, it was in Boston.
In Boston, whatever.
She was coming to
she was coming to Seattle. Because her shorts were a little too short.
She's also a burlesque dancer.
Sure.
Mary Muffin, I think is her name.
But it's not like she was Mary Muffining her way onto the airplane. She just had some shorts
She had
on.
some spandex shorts on.
They wouldn't let her get on the plane.
And some thigh-high stockings.
Okay, still, she wasn't burnt. She didn't smell of burnt flesh.
We assume.
You don't know that.
She wasn't on fire, bleeding, and hadn't showered.
Again, you don't know that.
I saw the pictures. I presume that she smelled fine. But the point is, he's blaming this woman in first class. I'm blaming the airline. That tells you this was pre 9/11. Because they'd never let this fool get on the airplane like that. Are you kidding me?
Something suspicious about that one.
God, they'd let anybody on the plane back then.
He smells of something burning.
Yeah.
And appears to have just killed someone.
I mean, imagine you're in the airport and you don't know anything about death matches. And this fucking guy shows up with no ear, and he's missing teeth, and he's burnt,
and bleeding.
and bleeding, and he smells real bad. And they're like, beep.
No doubt limping.
Let the guy on the plane.
Puffing and puffing.
Sure. You got to carry on, sir? Okay.
And by the way, this flight that he was so outraged about, how dare she leave her first class seat from Japan to the U.S.?
Yeah.
It's not a short flight.
That's a long way.
Savio Vega versus Mankind in a King of the Ring qualifier. Vince and JR noted that people were standing and cheering for Mankind for the first time.
They weren't cheering too loud.
I don't know what got into these men. I mean, Foley was always the kind of guy who, let's go outside and I'll take 4 or 5 bumps in the ramp for no reason. But Savio goes, they're brawling on the floor, and Savio goes to the top rope, and he does this dive. And I've seen a million guys do planches from the top rope to the floor. I think Savio knew how far he could jump. He went flying through the air almost over Foley's head.
Foley had to raise his hands to catch him.
Yes.
Let me go back just very quickly since you're already onto the match. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention about the Foley interview. It was the best of all of them they've done so far. And he was so happy about the airplane that he found he had the ability to make people sick.
Just like my son, he left the room.
He had the ability to make people sick by bleeding, burning his flesh, and stinking. What are you proud about? I love Mick Foley. Now let me praise the guy. So, they do a preview for next week. And next week, the footage that they show is Foley just bearing his soul. And he's freaking out and he's screaming, Vince, why didn't you hire me when I was good? When I was young? And he's just freaking out and he's bearing his soul and he's flipping out and he's been ruined by this. It's a psychological burden upon him, the way that this has all turned out. And they go back to Vince McMahon. Foley has just been screaming about how Vince is this major psychological burden that he has yet to overcome. And they go back to Vince McMahon, and Vince says, what can you say? He's bizarre, ladies and gentlemen. And he just moves on.
Yeah.
Vince totally unmoved by the psychological scarring that he has added to this physically scarred man. It's like, God, dude.
Water off a duck's back.
Oh, yeah, just...
Guy was upset.
Fuck, I ruined his life? Who cares? He's facing Savio Vega. Should be happy, goddammit.
Okay, that's funny because I can see it happening. That's funny because it's authentic. All right, so Lawler's out there, and he's going to face the winner of this in the King of the Ring tournament, so he's running them both down, but especially Mankind. And finally... Oh, and by the way, Foley, you forget this. I may have said this last time he was in a match. God, he was in good shape here. By Mick Foley standards.
Dude, you should see him today.
Is he better?
Yeah, he looks great.
Oh, man, he's lost, seriously, it looks like 100 pounds.
Good for him.
We was on Jericho's podcast, just a clip of him on Jericho's podcast. It was like 60 pounds.
Yeah.
Excellent. So he goes after Lawler. The ref separates them. The ref is then distracted by Lawler. Crush tries to hit Mankind. He hits Savio instead, and Mankind gets the win.
A heart punch to the face.
That's what he called it, a heart punch, but he punched him in the face. Perhaps there's something unusual about Savio's anatomy. I don't know.
Well, you see, Mankind's just a little bit taller than Savio.
That's true.
So, yeah.
So it's now Mankind versus Lawler, King of the Ring. Mankind celebrates his win by screaming Paul Bearer's name, but Paul Bearer has abandoned him. Crush then tries to apologize to Savio. Savio was not interested. They got into a brawl. And let's be honest, that was a hell of a brawl they had. Farooq starts to come out, then just shakes his head and goes to the back. Which would have been great, except for what happened later. And then Vince reminded us that Savio and Crush had also gotten into it when Crush lost to Goldust. So this has been going on for a while now.
Lawler's out there. He just wears a jacket and his crown, and he's got no shirt on under it. So he rips the jacket off, and he's running around with no shirt on. And normally he wears a singlet, but today he's got no shirt on. And this dude was not a bodybuilder. He was not ripped, but he was 49 years old. And this man had a reputation of not watching what he ate, as we learned later when he died on national television. And he never went to the gym. It's actually kind of amazing that he was in that good a shape at 49 years old.
Good genetics.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
Did have a heart attack.
Anyway.
I'm sure Snickers had something to do with that.
Many men that age have heart attacks. Sad but true. So they ran down the card for King of the Ring. It took 30 seconds. I don't know why they don't do this anymore on a 3-hour show. But it's the King of the Ring tournament with Mankind and Lawler and Ahmed and Hunter in the semifinals. Plus Taker and Farooq for the title. Michaels versus Austin. And a 6-man with a Legion of Doom and Sid versus Bulldog and Owen and Neidhart. And all I can think was, why do they not do this anymore? This led to Psycho Sid versus The Undertaker in the main event. Vince claimed it was non-title. Sid's coming down, and Ross was on a roll this evening, going down everyone's history and background, and he mentions that Sid debuted in wrestling under a mask under the name Lord Humongous. That made me realize something. I only, for the first time, very recently watched Mad Max and then The Road Warrior. They happened to be on TV when I was flipping channels, so I recorded them and watched them later. First one sucks. The Road Warrior is awesome. But my point is this. Lord Humongous, the character Sid was playing, was ripped off directly from the bad guy in The Road Warrior.
Yes.
Now he's teaming with the Road Warriors.
Crazy.
This match is George Miller's dream come true.
Hell yeah.
So the match here was all Sid pounding on Taker in a ponderous manner. He hit a chokeslam for an ear fall and then just kept on wrestling. A lot of chin locks or something. And then Taker's whole comeback was he hit a flying clothesline, he hit a tombstone, and he pinned him.
Yeah.
That was the whole entire comeback.
That's what happens when you show up bitching that you don't want to lose to the champion.
All I can say is that between Shawn and Taker, the rope running on display on the show was excellent.
Dude, The Undertaker could hit the ropes.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember when that first, well, it's been a while now, it was the Skyscrapers against the Road Warriors on some WCW show. And it was very, very green, mean Mark Callis, but god damn, that big fucker can move. So Taker wins. The whole nation jumps him and beats him up, including Savio and Crush, who are now mysteriously friends again. It would have made sense if Farooq had come out and made peace earlier, but no, he let him fight. So Sid tries to make the save with chokeslams, but soon he is overwhelmed, and the nation beats up both the Giants for a while, and then they just leave. And that's how the show ended. That was an odd go-home segment.
Crush taking a chokeslam is something to see.
He did not go up like Ahmed did.
No.
Well, the whole idea is they wanted you to think that the Nation was going to be the main group next week because Farooq was going to win the title from The Undertaker.
That's true.
He did not. Spoiler alert. Farooq did not be The Undertaker in 1997 to win the WWE or WWF World title.
Sure, he almost had him.
That was Nitro, everybody. I recall we were going to... All right, let's get into these retro shows here. This is the week, everybody. I'm sure you're all well aware.
Oh, yes.
This was the week that all hell broke loose. And there were two fights. There was the Bret Hart-Shawn Michaels fight in the locker room. That one happened before Raw went on the air. And essentially, it had been building, as everybody knows, for a long time. Shawn had been needling the guy. He had made comments about his personal life. He made the Sunny Days comment when he was clearly not in a proper frame of mind. And Bret had been telling people, if I see this guy, if I get a chance, I'm going to knock this dude out, or I'm going to punch him. I don't know if he said he'd knock him out, but... So, they'd been arguing all day long, and I guess Bret ended up going to Shawn's locker room. So Bret started it, I guess, if you want to call it that. Went to Shawn's locker room. They had words. A fight broke out. Bret ended up on top, pounded the hell out of him, pulled a big chunk of hair out. In the melee, he hurt his own knee. They both got pulled from the show. Shawn Michaels screamed carried on, pitched a fit, said he would never wrestle another member of the Hart Foundation again, said he was leaving, he wanted to go to Nitro, he wanted to join his friends, it was an unsafe working environment, and he left. And apparently later, him and his father, just like Magnum TA and his mother, him and his father had a meeting with Vince, and he tried to get Vince to let him go out of his 5-year deal. He had 4 years left, and go to WCW, and Vince obviously told him no. And everything as of this week with Shawn Michaels was totally up in the air. Was he ever going to come back? Was he going to go to WCW? He was going to sit out his contract for 5 years? What was Shawn Michaels going to do? Hair-pulling, knockdown, drag-out brawl at Raw. It happened less than an hour before Raw went on the air. So Shawn was supposed to face Brian Pillman in the main event because Steve Austin hurt his knee the night before. But when Shawn Michaels ran home, they had to replace him with Mankind, and everything else went on as planned. They're pushing Ken Shamrock because Shawn may not be around for the Calgary Stampede, a legendary show which they're building up. And all things considered, given that Vince McMahon had to deal with this all day long, you would have never known, because Vince, like Kimbo Slice, was a professional. And he went on the air, and he did his job. You never would have known the difference. He didn't act like he was flustered. He didn't act like he was bothered. He did a hell of a job, and the show was pretty good, considering they had to rewrite the entire thing a half hour before the show went on the air.
That's right. This was a very newsworthy show. That's the biggest news, but there is news on the show as well. This was, if I didn't mention this, Raw 213, June 9th, 1997. It opened with Ahmed Johnson and the Legion of Doom versus the Nation of Domination. They mentioned Farooq had failed to win the world title of the King of the Ring the night before. And there was this dissension throughout between the members of the Nation. And they also mentioned, by the way, that Paul Bearer had ordered The Undertaker to attack everyone at the end of the pay-per-view until Ahmed put a stop to that by laying Taker out with the Pearl River Plunge. So this turned out to be essentially a 3-on-1 match, as once Farooq got in there, his partners, either through incompetence or just plain old neglect, did nothing to help him. So he was getting beat up for a long time by the babyfaces, including by the end, it was like a trios match in Mexico, where there's all three guys are in the ring beating up one, the ref doesn't care, his partners don't care, and eventually they hit him with the Pearl River Plunge and pinned him. So at the end, Ahmed does get the last win in the war with Farooq and the Nation of Domination.
Correct.
So, Crush and Savio leave Farooq high and dry. This leaves D'Lo, Brown, and Clarence Mason to help Farooq to the back. He had highlights of King of the Ring, including Mankind getting pedigreed to a table and other chaos. And then speaking of, the new King of the Ring, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, came out for a promo. Vince was outraged at all of Hunter's violent actions, including the pedigree to the table. But Hunter blamed it on Vince. He said, saying, "Look, I was supposed to be King of the Ring a year ago, but I never got my shot because of your politics and games." And for those fans who knew, and I think a lot of them did, this was the reference to the curtain call the year before, when the Clique went out in Madison Square Garden, and they all celebrated together on National Hall's last night, and he couldn't punish them because they were gone, and he couldn't punish Shawn because Shawn was world champion, so he buried Hunter and took away the King of the Ring push, which went to Steve Austin instead. And that worked out.
And now, it did work out, but let's talk about a couple of things here. First off, you're right that there were fans that knew about what he was talking about, but when you look at the larger WWE Raw audience, most of them would have had no idea what he was talking about. And in fact, we've been watching the shows week by week by week by week, and when you watch it like that, and you're not watching all of the other shows, and maybe you're not reading The Observer every week, you're just kind of watching them in succession. Watching it with those eyes, I can imagine that the vast majority of the audience had absolutely no idea what this guy was talking about. Vince was playing politics, and he was playing games, and that's why Triple H wasn't the King of the Ring last year. What in the hell does that even mean? It makes no sense to your average viewer. And what was funny about it was, when Shawn made the comment about the sunny days, and Shawn had made comments about how, Bret, you say you're a saint, but I've seen you out on the road and you're no saint. These all caused problems with Bret's marriage. So when Bret and Shawn were in Vince's office and they're all yelling and screaming and they're having it out and everything's going on, Vince made it clear, you guys need to stop making insider references on this television show. Quit going off the script and quit talking about insider storylines or insider news or whatever. Just keep it on storyline is what he said. So apparently before Shawn stormed out, he went up to Hunter and he gave Hunter notes for Hunter's interview with Vince McMahon. And apparently that's why this whole fucking line came about Hunter talking about how you screwed me with politics a year ago. That was Shawn getting one more dig in before he left.
That's phenomenal. I did not know that.
The other irony is, if you recall, Hunter lost in a King of the Ring qualifier, and they did some wacky rigmarole to get him back in. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay. Last year, 1996, Hunter was supposed to win, but because of the curtain call, he didn't win. This year, he was not supposed to win. He wasn't even supposed to be in the Final Four, but for whatever reason, they ended up changing everything after he'd already been eliminated, and he ended up winning. What a strange irony.
So he declared he was King of the Ring. This is now his home. This is his backyard. And anyone who had the guts could come out and try and challenge him. So Mankind, who had lost in the finals of the King of the Ring, appeared on the screen. He asked for a rematch. Hunter said as much as he enjoyed beating Mankind the night before, Mankind did not deserve that rematch. And then China spoke for the first time. She said Mankind could kiss her ass. And Mankind declared himself a good kisser and came on out. And as soon as he appeared on stage, it was Vince, Hunter, and China in the ring. And Mankind comes out, and Vince's hasty exit out of the ring at that point was something else. He wanted no part of what was going to happen. So Hunter catches Mankind coming into the ring, lays him out, hits him with the crown over and over again. And then when he goes to leave, Mankind recovers, grabs the crown, and sits there with the crown on his head. Hunter and China did not know what to do, and they just left. Sonny came out and modeled a T-shirt. They had highlights of Davey Boy Smith beating Mankind, Vader, and Owen Hart in a tournament to win the first European Championship.
A very nice little video package about him winning a title almost last year and finally defending it here on Raw.
So he comes out to defend it. It's Davey Boy Smith against Goldust. They have a lot of time. They have a very good TV match. And then both guys are outside the ring brawling, and they are both counted out. This European title is quite a legacy.
Well, first they had Goldust winning, but Bulldog had his feet on the ropes, and so the referee restarted it. And so you're thinking, oh man, I thought we were going to get a fuck finish, but thank God they've restarted it so we can actually have a winner. And then they did the count out, and it was like, that's like a double fuck. Like, it would have been better if you would have just fucked us one time.
Yes. So this title was introduced. It was then put on the shelf for 4 months or whatever. And then we got a crap finish in the first defense. So Marlena starts slapping Bulldog. Bulldog is angry now. He's going to grab a chair and finish Goldust off in revenge when Ken Shamrock makes a save. They have a little shoving match. And then Tim White is the referee, and he jumped in to separate them. And I could not take my eyes off him. Just random, frantic, constant arm movements to make sure this is a big deal. And it was very important to him that these men don't fight right now. And they didn't, so I guess it worked.
Fans were totally into this square off. Because he had two big muscular guys. Ken Shamrock looked like he was bigger than the Bulldog.
Oh, he was.
Oh my God, and the giant belly to belly, everybody goes crazy. They squared off. It was a good little angle here. The match itself was absolutely god-awful horrible. But the angle was fun.
He had Doc Hendricks was backstage trying to get in the Nation's locker room when suddenly Farooq and they must have grabbed every black guy they could find and just say, hang with Farooq for this segment. We just need bodies. So Farooq and 8 guys storm out. Hendricks goes into the locker room. Savio Vega is screaming in Spanish and English. Says he's going to go back to his Puerto Rican people. Crush insists the Nation is going fine. He orders Hendricks to leave.
Let's talk about what actually happened. Doc Hendricks is there, and Crush comes out of the room, and Crush is screaming at Doc, and he goes, don't you ever come in here again unless you're invited. And as Doc is leaving, Crush goes, oh, by the way, I just want to make sure that everybody knows the Nation is fine. I was like, so you want him to get the hell out of there, but before he gets the hell out of there, you want to make sure that he politely allows you to make your statement here.
So they go to the ring all of a sudden where Farooq is now there speaking his mind. He says he's recruited the men in the nation to watch his back. Said he had pulled Savio from a field picking jalapeno peppers.
Literally picking jalapeno peppers.
Yes. I maybe they have those in Puerto Rico. I don't know. I've always associated that with Mexico, but what do I know? So he says that's what he was doing when he brought Savio to the WWF. Although then I think about it, didn't Razor Ramon bring him in?
Well, revision is history here.
Farouk is a liar. And
I don't think that
Savio,
Vinny was really picking jalapenos when he was discovered anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't either. He fires Savio. He says he took Crush, who was doing nothing, elevated him to championship status, but now Crush was fired too. And Savio and Crush were watching this backstage, and they were pissed off. And then Farouk turned to all those nameless black guys and says, "You're all fired too." They all leave, and there's 3 guys left. It's Farouk, it's Clarence Mason, and it's D'Lo Brown. And D'Lo is just sweating. D'Lo knows doom was about to befall him. And Farouk says, "There's one more man in this ring who needs to be fired." And Clarence steps into D'Lo's face, wags a finger in his face, points to the back. And D'Lo hangs his head. He knows his time has come. Farouk turns and he says, "D'Lo, hold the ropes open so Clarence can leave." And I actually didn't catch this until the second time they played this later in the show. But the look of shocked relief on D'Lo's face when he learns he's been spared.
That's right.
Tremendous. He was so relieved and happy. So he holds the ropes. Clarence leaves. Farouk challenges Taker and Ahmed to face himself and D'Lo in a tag match next week. And that was that.
Farouk is such a great promo. God, he was good here. And I love backstage as they're showing Savio and Crush watching on backstage before they get fired. And as Farouk is cutting a promo and he's explaining, "Savio, I took you out of those fields, picking those jalapenos, and I made you a star." They show Savio, and he's got his head's kind of down a little bit, and he's kind of mean-mugging the screen, but he looks like he's contemplating this seriously, like, you know what, this guy did take me out of the fields as I was picking jalapeno peppers, and he did make me a star. Maybe I should be more loyal to the Nation of Domination. Then he gets fired. That was the end of that.
Mark Mero was shown apparently scolding Sable backstage. They plugged the hotline. You mentioned what happened before the show, which turned out to be a huge deal, obviously. But there were only 2 points in the entire show where they dropped even a hint of what was going on. And one was here, when they said, here on the hotline, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart are making all kinds of news.
They sure are.
I bet they are. They showed Paul Heyman and a very svelte-looking Tommy Dreamer making their way down the stairs to watch, not to watch the next match, but to be there.
What do you think he was, 60 pounds lighter?
Probably.
All I know is I don't watch the Edge and Christian show an awful lot. That's kind of granny show, as you're well aware. Mm-hmm. But it was on the other day on the network, and I don't do any drugs. I am drug-free. I am straight edge, baby. But every time that Edge and Christian show is on the background, I feel like I'm just fucked up. When I watch that show, it's so weird. So I'm watching this weird-ass show, feeling like I'm on every drug in the world because it's so wacky. And all of a sudden, there is Tommy Dreamer, and he's got no shirt on. And if you have not seen Tommy Dreamer without his shirt on, well, the Edge and Christian show is for you. I don't recommend it if you don't want to see this, because it is a sight to behold. I have no idea how they talked this guy into going on television in 2016 without a shirt on. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Anyway.
He just did a show in Montana. Chris Ryzik was there on the show, too.
That's right.
And he sent out via Twitter here. This is June 2nd. Quote, "I'm sitting at all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet in Montana alone, celebrating Velvel Haller's birthday. This is a choice."
Oh, my God.
I'm looking at the picture. I saw the tweet. I didn't look at the picture real close. I'm not sure what passes for Chinese food in Montana. This appears to be a buffet serving thing full of Cheetos with a spoon.
Oh, cool. It's like that one we went to that had the cron dogs.
Cron dogs, yes. Classic cron dogs.
Anyway, people seem to forget that when Tommy Dreamer started, he was like a young, handsome, pretty boy babyface.
Yeah, exactly. He was too pretty. The ECW fans hated him.
That's right.
In fact, now that I just thought of this, Tommy Dreamer was Roman Reigns in ECW.
Kinda.
Yeah. Things turned around. It took a while.
And then we had your favorite damn team, the Headbangers, against, as they were billed, the most exciting tag team in the history of the World Wrestling Federation.
When these two teams came out, I fully expected them to come back to the stairs and see Paul and Tommy walking back out.
You know what's funny about this is Furnace and LaFawn now have this gimmick that they're boring. And I don't know if it just destroyed their confidence, but they're fucking boring now. They had a boring-ass match, and granted it was the Headbangers, but it was a boring match. They fucked up the finish, which also may have been the Headbangers' fault. He may have been too far away, but...
Oh, I'm quite certain. Here's the finish. They're doing the four-way brawl, and one of the Headbangers is in the ring with Furnace, and he's going to make a cover. And LaFawn is going to break this up with his top rope splash, but the Headbanger will move, and LaFawn will splash his own partner. But they're in there doing this, and the Headbanger makes the cover, and LaFawn goes up top, and you can almost see him. He looks way yonder where these men are. He thinks, geez, I can't jump that far. And for a brief second, it appeared he's going to climb back down. And then thought, there's no time, I got to go. And he launched himself as far as he could go, and he landed on his feet, which was still not there all the way, and then tumbled over on the Furnace. The Headbangers won, and as I wrote here, those stupid, useless fucking Headbangers were so far away, LaFawn would climb down.
Wow.
I am very much not a fan of the Headbangers.
Dude, everything about this sucked.
It did. Very much the wrong team won here. And the other team was Furnace and LaFawn in WWF in '97, when it was clearly not working. Like I've said, they were just the wrong team in the wrong company at the wrong time. Lawler was backstage cutting a promo on Heyman and Tommy Dreamer, whose name he did not know, which made it even better, actually.
And Lawler had been at the ECW arena. He'd been doing things. I mean, they showed footage of him at the ECW arena earlier in the weekend. And I bet he still had no idea who 90% of the locker room was.
I guarantee you.
Oh, yeah.
He knew Paulie because he'd worked with him before, and because Paulie was in charge. He knew Rob, he was teamed with Rob, and because of that, he probably at least knew Sabu and Fonzie, and I suspect he didn't know anyone else's name. Just a body will come out, you punch them, and they'll go down. He said, sure. Steve Austin came out for a promo. This is going to sound really, really stupid in 2016, but Steve Austin was a great, great, great promo.
You know, Vinny, that sounded really stupid here in 2016. I'll give you that much.
He was so awesome here. They sold him at the pay-per-view, jumping Brian Pillman, throwing him in the bathroom, giving him a swirly. He ran down Pillman and Bret for a while, and all I could think was, I didn't want to type. I didn't want to move. Usually, 90% of the time when these shows are on, I'm typing, or no, it's not a secret. My interest wanders. I get bored. I was so afraid I would miss anything Steve Austin did here. I just stopped and stared at the screen this entire promo. He volunteered. He said there's a challenge from the Hart Foundation for a 10-man tag Canadian Stampede. He volunteered to be the first man to accept that challenge and said it didn't matter if he got 4 of the wrestlers or not. He was going to beat all the Hart's asses. And that was really that. He honestly didn't have a ton to say here. Just how he said it was so great.
He had very good delivery. I did like when he was talking about how he'd given Brian Pillman a swirly, and he noted that there were few things that brought a smile to Steve Austin's face, but the fact that he was able to give a swirly to Brian Pillman was one of those things. He was so happy.
So in 1997, they did not have Twitter. They did have America Online.
I love this. And you know what they did? They put it on screen exactly like they do it today with Twitter. It was just America Online screen names and commentary. And they only had like 2 things. Like, that's all they could get.
Yes.
They did not have 20 million social media followers back there in 1997.
So speaking of 97, it was, as we all know, a very historic year for this company, but the greatest moment of 1997 then happened next because Rob Van Dam came out, and that meant we got to hear the ECW theme song. It's the best. So it's RVD versus Flash Funk.
I was so sad. The Observer just had RVD beat Funk. And I was like, oh my God, they brought in Terry Funk on Raw. I cannot wait. And then it was Flash Funk.
Could have been Jimmy Jack. So, Dreamer and Heyman are going at Rob and Lawler before the match, and they are quickly separated. Then before the match, they showed a promo for SummerSlam 1996 here in 1997 because the promo won an award. I thought, well, that's silly, just because it's won an award, you're going to show it again. And then they showed it again, and I said, okay, I'm happy they showed that. Because this was the one where they were spoofing the Olympics.
Yes.
With Ahmed Johnson running through hurdles, not over the hurdles, through them.
I can believe that, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I can believe that they put a bunch of hurdles out and they said, okay, Ahmed, we're doing a spoof of the Olympics and we need you to compete in this hurdling event. So just go do the best you can. And he didn't know what it was, so he just ran through them all.
Yeah. Steve Austin did a shot put and hit the guy with a torch and lit him on fire. All the great comedy. Then they showed footage from ECW TV where Lawler appeared in the ECW arena in Philadelphia, and he was not welcome, not treated warmly by the fans. So Lawler had a sore throat here. He blamed it on Mankind's mandible claw from the night before the pay-per-view. So they're doing this match, and this was a Rob Van Dam match if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, they're all exactly the same.
He would do 2 or 3 moves, then he'd get cut off. The other guy did 2 or 3 moves, then Rob would cut him off, he'd do 2 or 3 moves. The other guy would cut him off, did 2 or 3 moves. Repeat, repeat, repeat. No rhyme or reason to any of it. And eventually, Rob won with the slam and he split leg moonsault.
Literally nothing to say about this. Although they did have the wild brawl after the match, which I guess was the only thing that was notable. The ECW guys out there. It's just so amazing looking back how weird it was that Vince was helping promote ECW, actually helping fund them for a period of time. What did he get out of this?
Eventually, Rob Van Dam.
Well, I guess, but he could have got him no matter what. He could have got anybody. But the way things went, he could have got anybody he wanted. Yeah.
I think his thinking, he said this. He has said this in the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD. His theory was that if he kept ECW alive, they would be eventually a developmental league. And he said, I could take the ECW stars and make them WWE superstars. So he thought it would be good for him to keep them around at that level. So it didn't work, obviously, but it was
a good theory. You know what? It was a good theory, like the theory that you should do a brand split.
Well, that's another discussion. I did enjoy the brawl with Heyman and Lawler and RVD and Dreamer. It was a great brawl, especially Heyman with his ponytail undone, no baseball hat, bald eagle mullet flying everywhere, just charging at Lawler and just eating punches. They're having this brawl, and Vince is appalled. He blames this on ECW for jumping the rail and says, quote, "This isn't what the war zone is about."
It's always awesome when he's got these... He has these phrases, I'll just give you the example. It used to be that if you were a male wrestler on Raw, you were not a male wrestler, you were a superstar. And if you were a female wrestler, you weren't a wrestler or a female, you were a diva. There were superstars and there were divas. And so then there was that one, was it Machine Gun Kelly? Who was the guy?
It was Machine Gun Kelly is not a superstar.
That's right. Machine Gun Kelly gets beat up. And so the backstage interviewer is what they're trying to say is, I can't believe you beat up Machine Gun Kelly. He's not a wrestler. But since you can't say wrestler, she has to say, I can't believe you beat up Machine Gun Kelly. He's not a superstar. And it comes off so stupid. Just like because you had to call it the war zone, when you actually have a brawl, to actually have to go on television and say, this kind of thing is just, it's not right here in the war zone. It sounds so stupid.
Sid versus Owen Hart with Ken Shamrock in commentary.
What do you think about that, baby? My infant's looking at me like I'm a madman. For that rant about superstars and divas.
I've seen the photos. I'm assuming her tongue is sticking out.
she's had the tongue gimmick has been very fun lately.
All right, Sid versus Owen Hart with Ken Shamrock on commentary.
It seems to be whenever the wind's blowing, she likes to stick her tongue out like she's trying to lick the air. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
She's like a golfer trying to gauge the speed.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of putting her finger in her mouth and holding her finger up, she just sticks her tongue out.
Yeah.
I've got a very wise child. Tell me about Sid. Let me tell you about Sid. Sid was so unbelievably fucking hilariously horrible in this match.
It was one of his nights.
I would never. I'm really starting to figure this out with Sid. I would never want this guy to be better, because Sid, to me, his gimmick is that he's Frankenstein, and if you brought Frankenstein back to life, Frankenstein's monster for you geeks out there, if you brought the monster back to life, and you tried to imagine, okay, Frankenstein has been put together through various different people's body parts, and he's been sewn up, and electricity has been run through him and brought him back to life, correct?
That's right.
Okay. How would Frankenstein wrestle? Would he do kip-ups? Would he run the ropes like Shawn Michaels? What would he do? No, he'd be a big, giant, undead, unbendable, lurching stiff, which is exactly what Sid is, and it's perfect.
All I know is I was watching him here and thinking, by this point, he had been a professional wrestler for well over a decade.
Yes, he had.
At no point in the prior 10 years did anyone pull him aside and say, hey, maybe instead of throwing punches, you could do chops or elbows or forearms or something.
Because you think those would be better?
They couldn't be worse.
Well, you may as well just have him throw bad punches then.
So, Shamrock got sick of Neidhart interfering repeatedly. He laid him out with a suplex on the floor. And this is important how this goes. He lays Neidhart out. And Owen's in control. But then Owen looks around for Neidhart, and he sees him he sees him prone on the floor, and he doesn't know what happened. And for a moment, he is distracted. And that he was not pinned with a schoolboy. But that distraction gave Sid a chance to fight back and start his comeback. And they go back and forth a bit, and Sid hits the chokeslam for the win. So you see, the distraction hurt Owen because he went from being in control to not being in control. But then Sid still had to win the match on his own. It gave him an opening, and he had to take advantage of it, so it still felt like he accomplished something here. It wasn't just Owen being dumb.
I love the spot where Sid goes for a clothesline, and the guy ducks, and then he grabs him by the neck, and it's a chokeslam.
Yes. Like, I was going to chokeslam.
I was going to clothesline you, but when it failed, I thought, hey, I'll chokeslam you instead.
I'll just do my finish instead.
It's just a wacky, stupid spot.
Was this the part with Sable?
Yes.
Sable came out to... I forgot to write it down when it happened. I had to go back and add it, and I wasn't sure it was the right spot. Sable came out to model T-shirts, and she was out there being Sable until Mark Merrill came out and scolded her for being sexy. They aired the final Mankind sit-down interview.
Awesome.
Before he starts, Ross says that in 20 years of managing wrestlers, he's never felt so helpless. So they go into the interview segment, and Mankind is talking about using the mandible claw because in his mind, whenever he put it on, he was administering it to Vince McMahon and screaming, "Why didn't you sign me when I was young? Why didn't you sign me when I was good?" And he talked about the violent course his career had taken, admitted he was envious of pretty boys like Shawn Michaels. And due to that envy, he wished them nothing but trauma in their personal and professional lives. And Jim Ross turns to him and says, "Don't you think it's about time you just take responsibility for your own actions and all your troubles?" And Mankind says, "You're the one who talks about how I enjoy pain. When do I enjoy it? Is it when I'm too hurt to play catch with my son? Do I enjoy it when they're putting a 12-inch needle in my back so I can get to another match?" And he stands up and he's berating Ross, and suddenly he snaps and he screams and he puts Ross in the mandible claw. Everyone on set panics and runs around and doesn't know what to do. There's a shot where Ross is down on the ground wheezing, and Mankind has the mandible claw on, and he's looking at the ceiling and smiling. But then he comes to, he realizes what he has done, and he cries out for help. And this is awesome. All I could think was, when they started showing these, and when they put this all together, I don't think their plan was, let's turn Mankind babyface. Because all I could think was, it would have had a different ending then.
Well, it was kind of weird because Dave mentioned in The Observer that when Mankind came out, he didn't get nearly the babyface reaction that they expected. And I was thinking, when I watched these, the last several weeks, I mean, Mankind clearly came off as a babyface. But then they showed this one, and he totally came off as a heel.
Oh,
So
yeah?
I was thinking maybe that's why he got a weird reaction when he came out at the end, because you just showed this one where he came off as a total ass. He was awesome, though. What fantastic delivery this man had.
Oh, yeah. Again, breaking news. Mick Foley was a good promo.
It was an exceptional promo.
Yes. Here's everything I wrote for Rockabilly versus Bart Gunn. They did some stuff for a few minutes, and nobody cared, and Rockabilly won with a shake, rattle, and roll.
I think you may have written more than me. I wrote, last time these men wrestled, Bart almost killed him. Pretty much a pointless nothing match.
You definitely wrote more than I did. It was supposed to be Brian Pillman versus Steve Austin. Pillman comes out first, then Austin is coming out. The Hearts jump him 4-on-1 as he comes down the ramp, and who should make the save but Mankind? The officials chase the Hearts to the back. Mankind begins to wrestle Pillman. There's a ref there, the bell rings, and to the surprise of everyone, especially Austin, that is now the match. So it's Brian Pillman versus Mankind. They are brawling everywhere, and here was the other reference to the Shawn Bret brawl on the show when Vince says, we have now seen all members of the Hart Foundation, quote, save one who was asked to leave earlier tonight. So they brawl everywhere, and eventually Mankind hooks the mandible claw, and as soon as he does, the Hearts attack for the DQ again. Austin limps down to make the save. Shamrock is out there. The Hearts all bail, so it's Shamrock, Austin, and Mankind in the ring. And Austin is eyeballing the Hearts. He backs up, and he backs into Mankind. And he turns around, and Mankind's down in the corner, and he has saved Austin. Austin just has no idea what to make of this. And then Austin bumps into Shamrock. And they jaw jack a bit, and Austin does know what to make of this, and he drops Shamrock with a stunner to end the show. So, Austin cut a great promo. Mankind cut a great promo. There was a huge brawl backstage. And otherwise, and the Nation of Domination broke up. Anything else on this? Yeah. It was a very newsworthy show, like important stuff that set the stage for what was to follow, especially backstage. But I don't know, watching it, I thought it was just a show. It didn't feel as historic as it was.
No, it was just kind of a show. I thought it was, given the disaster that happened earlier, I mean, it was pretty fun, actually. It was kind of shockingly good. So, yeah, we'll talk more about Shawn next week because he does not, in fact, leave forever, nor does he go to WCW. And as I noted very early in this show here today, there were 2 backstage brawls. The second one wasn't really a brawl. It was a backstage skirmish. And it happened after Nitro went off the air. So we're going to review Nitro, and then I'll talk about what happened and why. And I will try not to bury anybody too badly. Anyway, let's get on with this retro show.
Oh, yeah. I better get my notes open.
Because that is what we are here for.
Retro Raw and Retro Nitro. From 19 years ago this week. All right, here we go. Raw 214. It was June 16th, 1997. Show opened with no pyro, no graphics. Just Vince McMahon and Jim Ross explaining to the viewers at home that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart had a fight backstage right before the show went on the air last week. He said both were injured in this fight. Shawn will be out for about a month. Bret will be back in a few days. They made it clear both were unprofessional, but they made it equally clear Bret was the aggressor.
Yes.
So, since Shawn was out in an undetermined amount of time, but they were expecting him back. Their plan, and under the circumstances like this, you could do worse for a plan. We're going to do a tag team tournament to crown number 1 contenders.
I guess you could do worse, but watching this show, you couldn't do much worse.
There's a flaw there. There's a flaw in their roster, but as far as backup plans go, this makes sense on the surface. We're going to do a tag team tournament to crown number 1 contenders. The winners of that tournament will face Steve Austin and a partner of his choosing for the tag team titles. We're hopeful that partner will be Shawn Michaels, but it may be somebody else.
I should mention, before we get going any further, that in the Observer, there was a little blurb this week that I would like to read to everybody for historical purposes. This was the week of June 14, 1997. We were all 22 years old.
He was older.
Except Craig, he was 30.
I was 24.
WWF has hired a new announcer named Michael Cole, who did the Shotgun Show over the past weekend with Jim Cornette. Don't know anything about Cole, but reports we heard were that it was obvious he didn't know much and Cornette was carrying him. 19 years ago this week, everybody. There you go. How times have changed.
They haven't, though. He still doesn't know anything about wrestling. So Austin comes out for a promo. He's ranting about how he doesn't need a partner when Mankind appears in the Titantron. He says he knows he and Austin have a bond. He wants to team with Austin so they can set the tag team division on fire. And after watching this show, setting the tag team division on fire sounds like a great idea. Austin says that no eared freak like Mankind is going to watch his back. He's already stuck with Shawn Michaels out there shaking his ass. Mankind offers to shake his ass as well, adding he has a nice ass. Austin says you have a nice fat ass. And Mankind says, I can tell you're upset. I'll let you think about things. And he disappears. So Austin goes back to his match against Brian Pillman tonight.
This is a very patient fellow, this Mankind. I'm going to make you an offer. I am offering you my ass. Now, you're not sure about it. I'll give you some more time.
Get that drop.
That's what he said. He said, I can wear earrings and I can shake my ass.
It's the first time he's actually...
That's what you're looking for.
First time he's actually done comedy.
On
Yeah, since
in
he
the arena.
debuted. Yeah.
Well, he has some jokes in the Jim Ross stuff.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so they showed Austin stunning Ken Shamrock last week, and then Shamrock came out to confront him. He says Austin is no different than the Hearts and challenged him to a match tonight. Austin said, I have a match with Pillman first, but once that's taken care of, I'll be happy to fight you too. And the crowd was honestly not sure what to make of all this. Pillman did a promo backstage, the first of about 7,000 backstage promos in the show. They showed Austin giving him a swervy at King of the Ring, and they said in the Pillman-Austin match tonight, the Hearts would be handcuffed to the ring post. So Pillman tied that into how the Hearts had shed the shackles of oppression and censorship, and now Vince is putting them back in chains. But he's the one who's free, he the one with the rap sheet, and tonight Austin was going down.
My favorite part of this whole thing was Vince McMahon said swirly.
Yeah. That's the big part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when you flush a man's head down the toilet, it's called a swirly.
Correct.
But it's one of those things that you don't expect Vince McMahon to know. So someone must have filled him in, and he wrote it down. And then he told the world that Pillman had received a swirly.
And he looked hip.
No.
All right, let's get this tag team tournament underway. New Blackjacks versus Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart.
Here's my favorite part of these new Blackjacks. Bradshaw's got that goddamn mustache.
Handlebar mustache, yes.
It's so horrible. Some men, Zeb Coulter can pull it off. Some men can pull off the handlebar mustache. I mean, Bradshaw's just a guy. He's not like a thick-haired, bushy, like Zeb's got hair everywhere. Bradshaw's just like a guy, and he's trying to grow this mustache. It would be like if I tried to grow it. Mm-hmm. A disaster.
Yeah.
And I love any facial hair or haircut that fits a man's character, but then you realize this man's got to go to McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
This man's got to go to Safeway.
Mm-hmm.
And this fucker's got to walk around with this horrendous mustache.
I think the same thing about Enzo Amore.
Yeah, but you know what? He's like a crazy man. Like,
no one told him to do that to his hair.
Yeah, he's so crazy. You've seen Bradshaw doing commentary.
Yeah.
He wears a suit. He combs his hair.
Right.
He's a normal guy.
On Fox
And then
News.
he's got that thing on his face.
Right.
Enzo Amore is not a normal guy.
No.
I don't picture Enzo Amore walking around in a suit and trying to comb his hair when he's out of the... Anyway, I laughed my ass off thinking, this guy's walking around looking like that. Poor bastard.
So the crowd had no idea which of these teams to cheer for. I don't blame them. I believe Bradshaw got a hot tag, although it was hard to tell. Wasn't very hot. So he has the pin after a leg sweep, but Wyndham has the ref. And Owen then drops Bradshaw with a spin kick, and Bulldog cradled him for the win.
Not much more to say about that. I do like how Bulldog tried to do that cradle where you do a headstand.
Mm-hmm. He just
Didn't
slid
make it.
halfway down with his feet kicking up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a nothing match.
There's more to come.
They recapped the implosion of the Nation of Domination last week. The remarkable thing about this was the music they chose. It wasn't the theme music of anyone involved. It wasn't dramatic orchestra. It wasn't heavy rock. It was trance. Like a rave was going on. Like Tiesto was spinning dudes. Yeah. So Paul Bearer and Undertaker then did a backstage promo concerning Taker's match, teaming with Ahmed Johnson against Farooq and a mystery partner tonight. Taker began to talk, but Bearer cut him off and said, "You are going to do whatever I say, and Ahmed will also do whatever I say if he knows what's good for him."
Paul Bearer. We'll get to him later.
He had more backstage promos as Shamrock talked, and he ran down Austin for a while and vowed to knuckle up.
Every time I see Ken Shamrock on this show, I don't necessarily want to make any accusations, but Ken Shamrock did very recently fail a steroid test. Mm-hmm. In his book, Inside the Lion's Den, or whatever it's called, written in the 90s, he writes this big-ass long thing about how anti-steroids he is.
Did he now?
God, he's absolutely enormous on this show. Humongous.
Ran into him at WrestleCon, not this year, but last year. Huge.
Oh,
Maybe he doesn't like other people doing steroids because there's not enough left for him. Anyway. All right, let's talk about Phineas Godwin.
the mule kick.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to call it? I think it's very generous.
In the middle of this match,
Not even the
Phineas-
middle, the beginning.
You should tell him who he's wrestling, by the way.
It's
Triple
Hunter
H.
Hearst Helmsley. That is irrelevant.
It is irrelevant. He got on all fours, and then he jumped his ass in the air and kicked his legs backwards.
Only one of them, though.
The bell rings, all right? The bell rings. Hunter takes him in the corner. He lays in the punches. Phineas turns him around. He lays in the punches. And then Phineas says, "I've got an idea."
Mm-hmm.
Had he ever done this before?
I'd never seen
I
it.
can't imagine anyone has ever done this before.
I can't imagine Triple H agreeing to let him try this spot.
He says, "I've got a plan. I could keep punching this guy. Instead, I'll turn my back to him, take a few steps, plant both hands on the ground, and kick both feet into the air, and they'll collide with his head and causing much damage." Now, under the best circumstances, this would be an awful plan and an awful move. But it was so clear he had never done this before and had never practiced this before. He gets on all fours, or he puts his hands down. He thrusts his feet into the air, and you can see him, his head's pointing back toward Hunter, and he realizes, "Oh God, I am way too far away." And he sort of leans one foot down, and Hunter sort of throws his head into it. I laughed so hard. I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. Then I made a GIF. Then I shared it with the world. And as soon as this thread is up, I will share this GIF with all of you.
Much to Triple H's credit, though, he saw that this was not going to look
Credit?
good. Hold on.
Hold
He
on.
actually took a step
Hold on a
forward.
second, Craig.
He actually took a step forward to.
No.
Okay, whatever.
Hold on a minute.
All right.
The idea that as they were going over this match,
Yeah.
Hunter even agreed to
Understandable.
take this match.
I understand.
This is where this whole thing went awry. Now, to his credit, after agreeing to take this move, go ahead.
He actually took a step forward so Phineas wouldn't have just thrown his leg into the air and looked like a complete idiot.
Oh, he looked like a complete idiot. How? What was Hunter thinking?
He was trying to save the move, Brian.
Vinny, if you had a hog farmer gimmick and you told me you had an idea, I would have shut you down so fast.
At the hog farmer game.
I would have shut you down when you said I'm going to get on all fours. I said, no. It's
Well,
done, dude.
Happy to hear that.
It's not happening.
So, now, here's the thing. We're skipping over some stuff. There's more. Before the match even starts, Phineas lays eyes on China. And he says, "This is the woman for me."
He's a hog farmer, by the way.
He's a hog farmer. So he decides, "I'm going to woo her with my acrobatics." He does a cartwheel. Wait, that was it. So
Yeah.
then Hunter goes to remove his robe. He lifts it over the top rope and hands it to a man that may have been Pauly Shore. Mm-hmm. And this man dropped the robe. So China went out there to harass him and make sure this never happened again and sent him packing. At which Vince McMahon noted the curly-haired gentleman would not soon forget this humiliation. This led to Phineas, who was in fact was curly-haired, and he was also humiliated by this damn mule kick.
By the way, Triple H put on like 15 pounds of muscle between last week and this week.
People just swell sometimes.
Dude, Hunter.
Bees.
I hope they don't show these old Triple H matches at the Performance Center because this was so fucking boring. And he does the same match he does nowadays, but I don't know what changed, but they're better now. They were so bad back then. This match sucked.
Well, to be fair, now there's no Phineas. I think it's a huge burden. So Phineas makes his comeback. He's going for the slop drop. Chyna jumps in the apron. Phineas forcibly kisses her, which pops the crowd. When he turns around, Hunter hits the pedigree for the win. And that served Phineas right. Laying his hands on a woman like that.
And throwing that mule kick.
So Hunter and Chyna are leaving. Henry Godwin comes storming down the ramp. Hunter braces for a fight, but Henry blows right by him, gives Phineas a browbeating, says this is all Vince McMahon's fault, and he drags Phineas to the back.
Yeah, Henry Godwin. I thought that he retired after getting his neck broken, but I was alerted that I was very wrong.
Yeah.
And here he is back already.
About 6 weeks.
I have a few more Impact-related tweets to share. Let's go through these three in the order they appear on my screen. From Andrew Lapamardo. Holy shit, I have Pop TV, but sadly, they are showing Impact Wrestling. How is TNA Dixie allowed to run a company? This is a dumpster fire. Below that, from Danny Martin, at TNA Dixie, at Impact Wrestling. How do I get my $50 back? Only wanted to see Maria Kanellis and Gail Kim, it's me. What a burn. Never again, tape.
Oh, what a burn.
He wanted to pay $50 to see Maria and Gail.
Huh.
The next one, Miggy M. I work and left a recording after 2 hours of bullshit. I got nothing. This is why WWE is better.
Yeah, this is why.
6 minutes ago. I'm not sure what he's talking about. All right. I'll close that now. Farooq cut a backstage promo. He said that besides himself and D'Lo, he is promising 2 new members of the Nation of Domination tonight. He vows these 2 new members will be bigger, better, badder, and blacker.
Blacker.
And he says this.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon says, whatever that means.
Well, blacker than Savio Vega and Crush.
Yeah. Was this a great mystery?
Well, it wasn't that big of a mystery because later they start talking about what black fellas might be the new member of the Nation of Domination,
That's
new
correct.
members. And among those that he mentioned were Butch Reed and the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
And Abdullah the Butcher.
Right.
Do the Butcher, and there's one other. Well, we'll get to it. I got it written down when we get to there. Sonny came out to do ring announcing for no reason.
Oh, man, there was a reason.
Well, the reason was that her husband was in the next match.
Can you imagine she's out there introducing Chris Candido just weeks after the Sunny Days comment that caused Bret and Shawn to fight backstage?
Wrestling is weird.
You know what else is weird? During this match, well, first off, they announced they're going to do a light heavyweight tournament.
Yeah.
19 years ago this week, they're doing a light heavyweight tournament, and we've got a Cruiserweight Classic coming.
Made note of that as well.
I suspect this one will be better than that one.
Oh, I'm sure will. Now,
Did
on
I
top
mention
of that,
the match, by the way?
we'll get to that in a second.
No.
Okay.
On top of that, well, I guess I got to talk about the match now. It's Brian Christopher versus Chris Candido. It's USWA versus ECW.
That's right.
Now, last night on Raw, you have not watched Raw yet, Vinny,
Nope.
but John Cena is doing a promo, and he drops the letters ROH
Oh.
and PWG.
Wow.
Doesn't mention TNA, I might add.
And New Japan, by the way.
Sure. But the two that are most, I mean, you never hear Ring of Honor on WWE television. And certainly this has got to be the first time they've ever mentioned
First time they
PWG.
even hinted at PWG.
So I remember at the time thinking, wow, it's just like a new business. They're mentioning Ring of Honor and PWG. Then I go back and watch this show, and they mention ECW and USWA.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Mid-South later.
some things never change. It's weird because when we grew up, we're old. When we were youngsters watching, they never acknowledged anybody else.
Yeah.
They never acknowledged WCW
They
and
never
NWA when Flair showed up.
Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes had to get new characters when they came in.
That's right. They never mentioned another promotion. So we remember that, but we forget in the mid-90s, Vince was talking about ECW, USWA, AAA, all of these other promotions.
yes.
And now here we are. You mentioned ROH and PWG.
All Japan.
All Japan.
So this match only went like 4 minutes, but that 4 minutes was enough to remind me, God damn it, Chris Candido was a great pro wrestler. Holy shit, this guy.
Yes, sir.
So it was awesome. Dangerously is he's on commentary. He's putting over all of ECW, but mostly Candido in the triple threat. And they asked him to say something about Lawler or about Christopher, and he dodges the question at first, and then spills the beans that this is Jerry Lawler's son, and neither of them have ever mentioned on TV because they are both ashamed of each other.
Wow.
Lawler is not happy to hear this. He comes out, slaps Heyman, and then he attacks Candido for the DQ. And so RVD, Lawler, and Christopher are all working Candido over until Tommy Dreamer shows up with a chair to clear the ring. Ahmed did a short promo backstage. He basically said he would do whatever it took to get along with Taker tonight. They plugged the week's upcoming house shows. Took like a minute. And then they showed clips of the Hearts getting a hero's welcome at the show in Toronto. Now, I, of course, have not watched a 3-hour Raw in some time. Perhaps they do this and it's cut from Hulu.
No.
They don't do plug it, just take a minute and say, here's what will be this week.
No.
It's a mystery.
I know, it's really cool. I actually enjoyed the fact that they were actually promoting their own product. It's crazy.
Not to mention, it makes them seem important. They're doing shows every,
right.
3 or 4 days during the week in cities all over the country.
We're here, we're there, we're in this other country this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. Hart's did a backstage promo. It was all Jim Neidhart talking. He said he did not like to be handcuffed. He did not want to be treated like a criminal. But since they were going to treat him like a criminal, he was going to show Goldust tonight that crime pays. Jim Neidhart versus Goldust.
Hideous.
Natty is a better wrestler than her
If you
father.
have ever wondered, Natalia has surpassed her father years and years and years ago.
Oh, by the way, when I said this was hideous, I was mostly talking about Anvil's promo.
Oh, all right.
That was bad.
But the
too.
match itself was also
The match was much worse.
quite hideous.
First, for I don't know how long this went, but Neidhart's underselling everything. Like, Goldust does a body press, and Anvil sort of just throws his chest out into it and then takes a few steps back. And he was underselling or no-selling virtually everything until the finish, where Bulldog goes to harass Marlena, Goldust makes a save, and Neidhart jumps him. And then Goldust is the spot where his opponent tries a backdrop. Puts his head down for a backdrop. But Goldust drops down and hits a punch. And after no-selling everything the entire match, Neidhart takes this punch, and the 300-pound man goes flying high into the air and lands on his back, and then Goldust pins him with a punch from his back.
The same move he does mid-match every match.
Single time. Completely ridiculous. So that was quite awful. Austin does a backstage promo reminding us he's going to run through Pillman and Shamrock back-to-back. Then we got Steve Austin versus Brian Pillman with the Hart Foundation handcuffed to ring posts.
Now, keep in mind that the original King of the Ring plan, before Bret got hurt again and they canceled it, was it was going to be Bret versus Shawn, 10-minute time limit. If Bret did not beat him within 10 minutes, he would never wrestle in the U.S. again.
Right.
And all of the Hart Foundation was going to be handcuffed to ringside. Now, of course, they had their backstage fight. They think Shawn's coming back. But they held Bret off the show because they thought if we have him cut a promo, he's going to say something. Sean's going to flip out and we're going to have trouble again. So at this point, there was no guarantee these men would ever be in the ring together because they're having problems. Mm-hmm. So I think that this that they did here was what they were going to do at King of the Ring if it would have been Bret versus Shawn with the Hart Foundation handcuffed to ringside. Probably the same finish.
So they brawled everywhere. Austin was attacking all the dudes handcuffed who couldn't defend themselves. I realized that Brian Pillman was a physical wreck at this point, and so it's not fair to critique his physique, but God, his legs were skinny. Also, he had a hammer and sickle on his tights.
Well,
he's crazy. Loose Russian cannon. So eventually, somewhere in here, Pillman tried to use a chair, but Austin threw it into his face, and Pillman's nose exploded.
That actually was awesome. Not that it happened.
It looked great.
But the promo afterwards,
well,
where
that too.
Cut that promo, yeah.
Yeah. So Pillman chokes him with a cable to cut him off, and having this match, and Austin's stomping a mud hole in him, and the ref goes to pull him off. So Austin goes to hit him with a stunner. And I think I mentioned this before, But when you picture Steve Austin hitting with a stunner, you picture it's a snap move now. Like it's a,
Out of nowhere.
out of nowhere. Yes, it's a fast move. In 1996, Steve Austin had to do this in stages. It was like a complicated, multi-level process to hit a stunner on a man. So he stuns the ref. The ref is down. Pillman then hits a low blow and a weapon shot and makes a cover.
By the way, the most realistic low blow I have ever seen. I know it's fake, but when everybody does it, they do the exaggerated forearm underneath.
Yeah.
This looked like he really hit him.
Just punched him in the nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a second ref runs down. Now, this means this ref is aware that Steve Austin has stunned the first ref. An illegal act. And you would think, as he was dashing down to the ring, he may have witnessed Pillman using a low blow and a weapon shot. But he doesn't call a DQ for any of these things. Instead, he makes a cover. Or he makes a count, but Austin kicks out. Finally, the Hearts are able to get the keys and free themselves in attack, and that is a DQ. None of this made any sense. So, Shamrock, Goldust, and Mankind make the save. And then Austin and Shamrock are alone in the ring. Austin goes to jump him from behind, but as mentioned, the stunner was like a 14-step process, and so Shamrock is able to cut him off at a belly-to-belly. They get into a brawl. Hawk and Animal run down to break that up. Then Goldust runs down and grabs a mic. He says, "This is what the Hearts want." He says they have caught out any 5 men, the best the WWF have to offer, and I'm looking at these 5 men, and I think that's us. And he accepted the Hearts challenge on behalf of all of them. And Austin gets in the ring, teases fighting, and says, "My body feels like crap right now. Gorilla Monsoon won't let me face the Hearts by himself, so fine, I will team with you guys for one night. But afterwards, we won't be drinking beer together, we'll be right back doing this." And so there you go. There's your main event of Canadian Stampede.
First off, a couple of things. I wondered, I do not care enough to go back, so maybe somebody can answer this for me. If it's a DQ when all the guys hit the ring, why wasn't it a DQ when Austin randomly gave the ref a stunner?
Vince just mentioned that.
I don't know. I don't have an answer. So a minute later, I still don't know.
I didn't hear him say that.
I know.
I was checking something.
I know.
I'm fine.
Now, my other thing that I liked about this, which I know Vinny didn't mention, because I did listen to him at the end.
Okay.
You know what I love about Steve Austin is they worked very hard to keep his character consistent. Unlike today, where sometimes guys like each other, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they agree to team, sometimes they don't. They do an interview segment together, they're just chit-chatting. Next thing you know, they're fighting. Steve Austin made it very abundantly clear. I don't like any of you guys. He's always a lone wolf. I would fight them all by myself, but I know will not be allowed, so I will team with you this one time. We will not go get beers afterwards. We will not go get drinks. We will not be buddies. It's one and done. He's a very, 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 very consistent character. And I think that's why it was so successful. I also think that is why when he turned heel, the business went all to hell. Because what the fuck sense did it make for him to go with Vince McMahon?
Well, none.
Absolutely none. That's how everyone quit watching wrestling. Something to be said about consistency and trying to keep your characters consistent.
The Hearts did a promo from the locker room. They vowed to treat their opponents like American scum at the Canadian Stampede, and then Pillman took over. And he was awesome.
God, he was great. Bleeding everywhere.
Points to his face and said the battle lines have been drawn in blood. Once those Americans cross the border, they'll be in our dungeon. And he's going on like a madman. He's ranting and laughing. And he finishes up, and as it's fading to black, Owen Hart just screams, "Canada!" Sable came out to do guest ring announcing.
Oh,
for one
God.
of the weirdest and not best matches in Raw history.
Listen, Tommy Rogers, great guy. Bobby Fulton, except for his fucking tights, I'm sure a great guy. They're losing in a ratings war every week to Nitro. And they trot out Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers.
The Fantastics.
For a cruiserweight match against each other.
One of them was not a cruiserweight.
What were they thinking? You could look in the background and see fans leaving to the restroom and or the concession stand. In front of the camera. They chanted boring.
Yeah.
They did not give a shit. And you know what the other problem was? This is not breaking news. This is not genius. But if you fucking watch Nitro and the Cruiserweight matches, it's a bunch of flippers and a bunch of dudes from Mexico doing lucha libre and high spots and high flying. WWE does a Cruiserweight tournament, and we've got Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers doing a Southern-style wrestling match.
Yeah.
They wrestled exactly like the heavyweights did, just smaller.
What the fuck?
Well, there's more. There's more to hate about this. First of all, it's sad that the Fantastics finally get to debut on Raw, and it's 10 years past their prime, and it's not even a tag match.
Yeah.
So, Tommy Rogers essentially looked like Tommy Rogers. His hairline was not where it used to be, but he still had his mullet, and he looked the same. Fulton is out there in Brian's favorite gimmick, the one-legged tights.
Oh, god damn, why? Can somebody explain
It looks
who
so
thinks
horrible.
this is a good idea?
I don't know.
Listen, I always talk about gear because I was a wrestler. I used to have to order gear. So whenever I see a guy and he's got a plain pair of trunks and it's got 3 stars on the ass,
Yeah.
it's always like, so Ole Anderson called and he said, I want a pair of trunks and I want them to be crimson red.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, put 3 stars on the ass. Why? I don't know.
Why not 5?
Yeah, why not 4? Why not 4? Why not 1 for each horseman? No, I want 3. That's just a random example. But the point is, somebody has to go out of their way to design a pair of blank trunks with random stars on it. And it always blows my mind. That's what you fucking came up with? But a pair of trunks with only 1 leg. That's a new level of what the fuck. You called and you said, listen,
No.
I want a pair of long trunks,
No.
but make sure there's only 1 leg.
No. I'm sure they started off as 2-legged trunks.
Oh, I don't know, dude. I think he called and said, give me that pair of trunks. Can I get a discount if there's only 1 leg?
Can you pull those off the irregular rack?
Save on shipping.
Yeah, do you have any trunks that you made that somehow only have 1 leg that I can get a deal on?
It's like the scratch and dent room at IKEA.
Yeah.
Do you have Zach Gowan's gear in?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
Point of this is, why? I mean,
To
Shawn
stand out.
Michaels with his assless chaps. At least that was his gimmick. He shook his ass.
Sure.
The fuck is this guy's gimmick that he only has 1 leg covered? Does he have a big tat? Does he have like some Samoan tat on 1 leg? But he's not Samoan, so he's like, can you give me some trunks and cover up one of the legs? Why? Why?
Even more ridiculous is short boots on the 1 leg.
More, and this guy wrestled for years with a beautiful blonde mullet.
Yeah.
But by the time he comes out for this match, he clearly has 1 foot out the door of this business. He's got short, plain brown hair.
Which foot? The one with the long tights?
Fair
or the-
question. Fair question. Now they do this match, and as Brian noted, it is a fine, technical, old-school wrestling match in front of an audience that is used to either A, giant high spots, or B, big stars, and they gave 0 shits about these men. So Rogers finally hits about a dozen drop kicks and catches Fulton with a Tamikaze for the win. Vince McMahon could not wrap this up quick enough. As a count of 1, count of 2, count of 3.
I
He
couldn't
got him.
either.
Let's go to the next match. And Mark Romero came out to summon Sable to the back.
I'm pretty sure they were running low on time at this point. I don't know why this match wasn't scrapped. I don't know why they started the Cruiserweight tournament.
They got a damn tournament. You can't scrap a match.
They should have had the tournament start with Brian Christopher and Chris Candido.
Don't look at me, dude.
Well, because one of them would have had to lose, and they had to do a DQ in that finish. Speaking of tournaments, let's get back to this classic tag team draw.
Oh, your main
This
man.
field. The Headbangers against Jerry Lawler and Rob Van Dam in a tournament match. They go...
What a match.
Yeah, let me repeat this. The Headbangers versus Jerry Lawler and Rob Van Dam. They cut to the front row where Paul Dangerously and Tommy Dreamer are making mean faces, and I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but I laughed really hard. So this is a match where I'm watching it, I'm kind of half paying attention, and then it suddenly occurs to me, this fucking sucks. And I had to go back and start it all over to take in the badness. Now, to be fair, for a while, it was just your generic bad tag match. Until they go back and forth. The crowd doesn't care because we're 2 matches in this tournament. I believe we've now seen 4 heel teams. Because there are no babyface teams in WWF, so they couldn't do They couldn't put them in the tournament, apparently. It's too bad there was no babyface team available like, I don't know, the Fantastics.
I got a question.
Right? The Road Warriors,
Aren't the Headbangers baby faces? I know you hate
impossible.
them. I know you hate them, but I'm pretty sure they're baby faces.
He's got a point, Vince.
What's your evidence?
They're baby faces.
No, what?
The crowd loves them.
When?
Vinny,
No.
it's not about you. It's about the booking.
I have not seen anyone cheer for them. What? They were
not kidding.
friends. They were hanging out with Cornette and the Honky Tonk Man in that backstage promo to shoot Sonny with squirt guns.
Well, yeah, but they were all on the same page trying
Yeah.
to get Sonny.
What?
she was wearing white,
okay,
you know?
I am legit. I'm baffled by this. What have they done that makes you think they're baby faces? Well, how have they been
What have they
booked?
done that makes you think they're heels aside being annoying?
Wrestling.
Badly?
You know, I forget
They're
who
baby
they mentioned.
faces, dude.
I go back and look over who they've worked with.
You just hate them. You're clouded. Your judgment has been clouded. The Headbangers are baby faces.
Vinny is bewildered right now.
They're baby faces, dude.
Did they do a match against the Road Warriors? Was that one of the matches they had? Who are the only babyface team?
That's true.
So yeah. All right, whatever. So they're doing this match, and like I say, for a while it's just your average random Raw match. It was funny that Rob's finish at this point was the split leg moonsault, which meant the 5-star frog splash was not his finish. So at a random point in the heat, he does this huge frog splash. He's in the heavens, and he goes flying
my
down on the
God.
guy.
Hate to interrupt.
No, you don't.
So I went to Wikipedia to find out if they were baby faces or heels based on who they were wrestling.
Jeez.
And Wikipedia actually says, throughout 1997, the Headbangers, in parentheses, who were tweeners, feuded with the Godwins as well as Doug Furness and Phil LaFon.
I'm still not convinced that's a real wrestling term.
It actually is.
Okay.
We just didn't hear it when we were young. But yeah, so we were both right.
All right. So Rob hits this frog splash, tags in Lawler to get the pin, but Thrasher kicks out. Yes, Headbanger Thrasher kicked out of Rob Van Dam's frog splash.
And what a frog splash. It was like his best ever.
Yeah, it's giant.
And then a guy kicked out. I was
He
like,
almost flew off the screen.
when this broke down into a four-way, it broke down into
That
a
is
shitstorm.
what I am getting to. Everything's just going along, and then Thrasher goes to tag out, and he gives Mosh the hot hand, and then lays down right in front of him, so Mosh has to go around him to get into the ring. Always a classic move. Mosh gets in, and his comeback is running back and forth, hitting body slams. It turns into a god-awful four-way brawl. At this point, one of the worst matches of any of the Force careers. Lawler hits a pile driver. Rather than make a cover, he stops to taunt Dreamer in the crowd. Sandman appears out of nowhere, and the miracle of all this, Vince knew this man's name. Sandman gives Lawler the most gentle nut shot you ever saw. He bails. The Headbangers finish Lawler off with a double team suplex spot, and they botched it less badly than they do the usual finish. So the Headbangers advance in the tag team tournament.
I can understand Vince not knowing Bobby Fulton's name, and a lot of guys, actually. If he watched Nitro, he'd remember about 8 names. But I can understand him remembering the Sandman's name.
Well, sure.
Kind of unforgettable guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the fact that he bothered to even be aware.
Sure.
You think he'd ever laid eyes on the Sandman before he hit this ring?
Actually, he was in
Doubtful.
that. He was in that one show that they
The
did
debate?
for the Manhattan Center
Oh, yeah, he has been. Okay, yeah, and he
and the debate as well.
he was at the King of the Ring show where he spat on Savio, spat beer on
Yep.
Savio. So he's been on camera before. All right.
He's kind of hard to forget.
And you both make an excellent point there. He is unique. So RVD gets in a brawl with Dreamer and Sandman, and eventually the ECW contingent is led away.
This was all kinds of horrible.
Yes.
It sucked.
Ahmed and Taker are doing a backstage promo.
Okay. If you have not watched this, you know what I'm getting at? You know what I'm getting
I
at?
think so, but go ahead.
Paul Bearer responding
Yes.
to Ahmed Johnson. The best. I died.
Ahmed has a warning. He says, I respect Taker, but I don't respect you, Paul Bearer. You don't mean anything to me, and if you get in my way, I might have a problem with you, and I might have a problem with Taker. And the music kicks in, and Vince is talking about, we'll be right back. And Bearer, the only way I can describe it, and this does not do close to doing it justice, but he rolls his eyes and flaps his gums at him. But it's much better than that. This led to Ahmed Johnson and Undertaker versus Farooq and a mystery partner. Ahmed and Taker come out. Then Farooq comes out. And he does the intros for Kama Mustafa, the newest member of the nation.
Kama Mustafa.
The former Papa Shango. The former Supreme Fighting Machine.
The future Godfather.
The future Godfather, yes.
It's very funny when you watch him here.
And he does this intro, and then rather than come out on stage, Kama attacks attacks Taker from through the crowd, which lessened the impact of his debut. So they jump Taker at the get-go, and they get the heat on him from the get-go. They're working him over. I know I've mentioned this, but it bears repeating every time. Undertaker running the ropes was so great. Unbelievably great. They beat up Taker forever.
At least you got something great out of this.
Well, they beat up Taker forever. Here was where we had the discussion of Mr. Hughes. That was the fourth man I was going to remember.
That's right.
Abdullah Butchereed or the JYD or Mr. Hughes.
Didn't mention Ice Train.
No.
He was on the other show, Brian.
We could have mentioned Coco Ware.
Hey, we don't know if his contract may have expired. When's the last time we saw the Ice Train?
That's been a while.
About 3 weeks ago.
No.
Okay.
So Ahmed is being a bad
right
tag team partner, and he's distracting the ref, which is allowing Taker to get double teamed. And when Taker has a chance to tag out, Ahmed is on the floor going after Paul Bearer. And after about 6-7 minutes of this, Kama Mustafa grabs the Undertaker, hits a Uranagi, and pins him.
Yeah.
Clean as a sheet.
Like, I know everyone liked Kama from what I understand. Everyone thought he was a great guy. And I know you want to get the new guy over, but I just watched The Godfather pin The Undertaker clean. So, they go to attack him afterwards. Ahmed chases them away. The fans were much smarter than the announcers. They booed Ahmed right away. And of course, Ahmed picked up Taker, hit a Pearl River plunge. He went to the top of the ramp to pose with his new friends, and they all raised their fists, and they had a group hug. And they, so that's your nation, Farooq, D'Lo, Ahmed, and Kama. And it was a very good angle to close off a weird mess of a show.
The last half of this show was some of the worst television I have watched in a very long time.
There was a lot of crap.
Well, Ahmed was very miscast as a babyface. He's miscast as a wrestler.
I was going to say.
But, I mean, he's much better as a member of the nation. It's a good angle to set it up. It is a much better nation than the last group of numbskulls. Except they did get rid of PG-13, which is too bad. And by the way, Craig, it was a month ago.
Darn it, Brian, you got me.
Brian, the archivist over there, going through the records.
I literally did go through the records.
Burning the midnight oil.
But that was his last match until 2000.
Yeah,
So it's possible his contract had expired and he could have been the new member of the nation.
Yeah, Brian, we review these shows every week, and sometimes I remember stuff.
It also is
I'm pointing
more
out we
likely,
don't know that his contract's not expired. He could be available for this new nation.
Okay.
I think it's more likely, considering it's WCW, he's probably sitting at home getting paid doing nothing for 3 years.
Yep.
Probably was. No wonder he's cool with life.
Yeah. Let's go. Raw 215, June 23rd, 1997. Nation of Domination came out for a promo.
Can you imagine that here we are months before Survivor Series in the aftermath, and we have Vince McMahon asking Ahmed, why, Ahmed, why?
Did you use those exact words?
Yeah.
Eh.
He said, why, Ahmed, why?
Why have you joined the nation?
Why do you think, you fucking moron? Have you been watching the show? It's patently obvious why this guy joined the nation.
He said, you know why, white man. And he explained that since he came back from his injury, he had never gotten a title shot that was due him. The fans did not support him. Vince did not support him. And none of them supported him because he's a black man. So he had joined the crew. He noted Martin Luther King and tried to play nice, and he got shot. Louis Farrakhan was more aggressive. He's still alive. That's lovely.
This whole segment right here.
Oh, yeah. So then he began to mumble, and I have no idea what he said. D'Lo ran his mouth a bit. Farooq said society feared nothing more than powerful, intelligent black men getting together. Kama bragged about beating Undertaker single-handedly last week. And he was also proud of Ahmed for standing by their side. And D'Lo vowed they would rule the WWF by any means necessary. And aside from Ahmed's mumbling, all four guys came across great here. I thought it was the best promo segment the Nation of Domination's ever had, and we're off to a fine start.
Well, it's a new nation.
It was a new and improved nation.
Yes, a vast improvement over the old nation.
Yes.
For sure.
Ahmed is as incomprehensible as ever, but he is 1,000 times better as a heel. This Ahmed Johnson, his delivery, everything about him,
His scowl.
just doesn't fit a babyface.
No.
Unless he's like Brock Lesnar, which he most certainly was not.
No.
Not even close.
No.
So their music played,
Farooq, by the way, explained that the old nation was a bunch of geeks.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And the evidence is on his side.
Now, before you talk about what happened next, I just want to remind everybody of what this whole Nation of Domination thing was before tonight. It was a bunch of black fellas who
Crush.
were, well, sure, you had the rest of the nation as well.
PG-13.
Yeah. And they were race baiting, and it was uncomfortable here and there. And so now we have broken up that old nation. Now the nation consists entirely of black fellas. And now they've got opposition.
Yeah, the old nation was really a large multicultural crew of rough people.
Sure.
And they were there were things that they said and did and the way they dressed that were obviously taken from the
Choose your words wisely.
I am
Yes, Vinny?
the Black Panthers will say. But
Why they have to be black?
that's what they called themselves.
Yeah, that was the
kidding.
name of the group.
So the point is, yes, Brian's correct.
The Pink Panthers wouldn't have worked out quite as
No.
well. It's the name of a group,
Michigan
militants
Panthers.
in the
Group
60s.
Group of detectives just
Pit
walking
Panthers.
around.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, yes, they have gone whatever subtleties there may have been out the door. This is now a racial war.
It is a bunch of white guys on motorcycles.
Yes, out came Crush and his buddies, revving their motorcycle engines like complete assholes. Crush says, "The nation's full of crap. My buddies and the disciples of Apocalypse are a real brotherhood. We live together, we ride together, and we fight together." And a huge brawl broke out, and it was a hell of a brawl.
Now, let's think about this. So before, we would always have these issues with the nation, and things would break down, everything like that. Now we've got a group of black fellas against a group of skinhead white fellas
Yes.
on motorcycles.
Bikers.
And as soon as the brawl breaks out, the cops are out there.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon gets on commentary and he says, quote, "I have never been more intimidated in my life."
Yeah.
This got over huge with the crowd. They were actually chanting DOA.
Gee, I wonder why. It is like,
Where were they at this week?
oh
Michigan.
my
Michigan.
God. Like, it's just,
Okay.
I lived through this, but now, like, looking back at it as a
I'm
grown man,
Older and wiser.
not even older and wiser, but there are things going on in this country. And you look back
True.
at this, and it's like, holy fuck, this would never, ever fly
Yeah,
in
this
2016.
would be a terrible idea.
They'd be, oh my God. I couldn't even believe this.
Now, putting aside the horribly divisive nature of all this, you got two gangs. Their leaders have history. They don't like each other. They've made it abundantly clear why they don't like each other, and now they're fighting. That's a very simple thing to get behind.
It's a very simple thing, but did we have to? You know what I mean?
Well,
Also thought it was funny that Vince throughout the show made sure never to use the word gang.
Don't they have a pay-per-view coming up called Gang Warfare, if I
They
recall
actually
correctly?
do. It's Survivor
Yeah.
Series.
yeah.
That's right. The Survivor Series, the Montreal, was Gang Warfare. I'm almost positive, because the poster
There was a Gang Wars show or Gang Warfare or Gang Wars. I forget if it was Survivor Series or not. But,
I'm going to find the
Might be
Survivor
wrong.
Series 97
but yes,
poster.
well, there's more to come. There's other races joining in the violence. Legion of Doom did a 5-second backstage promo saying they like things chaotic. And then we had a segment out of the Twilight Zone.
Gang Rules.
Gang
Survivor
Rules.
Series 1997.
That's Gang Wars.
Gang Rules.
All right. So I'm watching Monday Night Raw with Dan Severn on commentary
And his mustache.
and his manly mustache. He is identified as a UFC fighter and an NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
True.
I can only imagine the physical pain Vince McMahon experienced having to say those words on TV.
Dude, he was totally into it. He was not forced. He was losing a war,
Well, that's true.
and so he wanted to be friends with everybody who might be able to help him. That's what happens every time.
Hadn't thought of it that way. This all led to Ken Shamrock versus Rockabilly. Shamrock out there looking quite swole. Severn's talking about fighting Shamrock in this building in Cobo Hall in Detroit. So then Vince says, UFC is falling on some hard times. And some critics are saying it's dangerous. And these critics are too harsh. That sport has a better track record health-wise than either boxing or wrestling.
Well, Dan Sever noted nobody has ever died in mixed martial arts competition, which at the time was true.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince said, well, that's something that boxing and pro wrestling can't even say.
No. And can't say never in the case of MMA, but there's still a lot more in boxing and wrestling. Meanwhile, Ken Shamrock is taking Billy Gunn apart with amateur wrestling throws and holds. And all I can think was, they have brought in they brought Del Rio's MMA fighter. They bring in wrestlers and fighters now and then train them all to work just like everyone else. And here's Shamrock thrown in the ring just doing what he does. And it makes him different and stands out. They don't want that anymore. So Billy cuts him off. It is all pro wrestling stomps and punches. And then Ken hits one belly to belly and the ankle lock for the win.
Vince is now on the there is no shame in tapping out train.
Yes.
Used to be that a babyface would never give up. And a heel would have to be a total coward to tap out.
After the match, Honky Tonk slid into the ring, and he was winding up with his guitar. And as soon as Shamrock turned around, he pulled the guitar in and pretended like he was playing it.
That's right.
Sure.
It was awesome.
And Ken Shamrock believed, you know what? This man got in the ring to play me a song.
Well, it looks like Elvis.
Sure.
He looks the best to put on a show. Shamrock and Seven had a stare down on the floor, but Shamrock shook his hand and raised it, and the Detroit crowd chanted "Beast."
Ross called them the two of the greatest MMA fighters. Actually, he might have called them the greatest MMA fighters of all time, which even in 1997 was quite a stretch.
Godwin's did a promo saying that Henry's broken neck hadn't felt like an accident, and what happened to the LOD tonight would be no accident either.
Accident?
Well, they were saying...
I realize that, but in real life, Legion of Doom is trying to destroy their opponents.
They're hitting him... Yes.
They gave him a fucking Doomsday device clothesline. You're shocked that you may have accidentally broken your neck. If this were real, that's a neck-breaking move.
The announcers were claiming it was, in fact, an accident.
I didn't mean to clothesline you in the neck off my partner's shoulders
from
and
6 feet in the air.
I thought it was just like a hold.
It wasn't the clothesline that broke his neck. It was the fall.
It was that damned ring.
You know,
that happened in the pool, no problem.
There are things on this show, especially during this period, that I remember so vividly. I have absolutely, completely blocked out of my mind the return of Henry O. Godwin.
Here he is.
In my mind, he never came back. Ever. And here he is. He's wrestling.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like 2 months later.
This is like the Berenstain Bears. You guys know about this?
It's come up a few times.
Yeah, that's what this is. Like history, something happened where history split, and I'm living in the timeline where Henry O. Godwin never fucking came back. Or I've merged into the other timeline now where he did come back. But when I grew up, he did not come back. Never.
This has got to have something to do with Biff and a time machine.
It's something. I split off one way, everybody else split off the other, and somehow I merged back into this weird-ass fucking timeline where Henry O. Godwin kept working after he broke his fucking neck.
So they vowed there would be no square dancing tonight. They said they were not stupid, and they were going to do things their way. They showed Sable posing in various swimsuits.
What a specimen.
Which is easy on the eyes. Said Mark Merrow was jealous of this attention. And said, you can read more about this.
Because he wanted to be in a one-piece bikini.
Apparently.
Hawking merch.
So you can read more about this in WWF Magazine, edited by Vince Russo. I screamed.
You know what's just amazing about that? WWF Magazine has been around forever.
Yeah.
I got it in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember a single time ever prior to this, when they were plugging the WWF Magazine, that they announced who was the editor.
Oh, you know why? It was never relevant before. It really wasn't relevant then, except one guy happened to, whine about it. So we had the Godwins versus LOD. It was a first-round tournament match.
This goddamn tournament sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Have we mentioned that before?
We have.
Oh, my God.
I thought this is the best match yet, which is saying nothing.
You know what it's saying? It's saying this tournament sucks.
So the Road Warriors kicked their ass for 3 or 4 minutes. Godwins were fine heels, getting their asses kicked, taking a hellacious ass kicking. They cut Animal off for perhaps 30 seconds. Then Phineas botched a clothesline and set up the hot tag. They set Henry up for the Doomsday device so they
Henry with a broken neck was so much better than a healthy Phineas.
Yes. We talked about this. This guy, as we go back and watch, we didn't appreciate now. The Faces of Fear, I think, are the ultimate example. But
Yeah. And Hog.
Henry Godwin was so good.
I did not appreciate Hog at the time. Maybe because he was a fucking hog farmer.
Phineas Godwin was even worse than I remember. So he fucks up this clothesline and set up the hot tag. The Dick Road Warriors go to hit Henry with a Doomsday device to break his neck again. Phineas makes the save and then turns around and Hawkins clotheslines him anyway and pins him. So the Pig Farmers immediately jump the Warriors with the slop bucket, and then the Hart Foundation hits the ring to attack the Warriors more. Bret was looking on stoically from the ramp. I enjoyed the match. There was too much stuff going on afterwards.
Made me sad. I watched the Road Warriors growing up in the NWA, and they were the men. You know what I mean? They were just, certain doom was coming when they came down to the ring, and here they are getting slopped.
Yeah.
Second
the
time in...
WWE.
Dude, it's 97.
Yeah.
What do you do with these dingbats? Next thing you know, they're falling off the Titantron drunk.
Yeah,
Well, it was just the one.
do have that to look forward to. They showed Thomas Hitman Hearns in the crowd.
Have we mentioned the post-match beating yet?
I mentioned it.
I love the visual of the Hart Foundation in the ring destroying dudes, and Bret Hart is calmly standing at the top of the ramp overseeing everything.
Yes.
We need more of this.
Bret is the...
Bret doesn't get his hands dirty unless he has to.
No.
He's got numbskulls to do that.
We use the term ring general. Bret's a ring general.
Yeah.
He's calling the shots, and his
he's a legit king of the ring.
Yeah, he's like
Even better, yeah.
he's like Kylo Ren, and the stormtroopers are
Yeah.
out there doing all this dirty work.
He calls the shots, and his flunkies go do the hard work, which is perfect.
And he's moody, just like Kylo Ren.
And he is moody.
And that kind of moody.
Long black hair. Anyway. Let's see. Undertaker and Paul Bearer were doing a promo backstage. Taker tried to speak. Bearer told him to shut up. Taker grabbed him by the throat. Vader ran in. Taker grabbed him by the throat. Bearer screamed out the fire. Taker walked away. This all took like 3 seconds.
Remember the fire. He screams.
Fire?
Like there's no better
fire?
I don't know. You can't calm down Undertaker another way except for yelling remember the fire. You can't just yell secret. Remember the fire.
Yeah, but then
Stop.
there's no hints to the
Yeah,
audience.
stop.
Calm down. Don't get hot. Owen Hart did a backstage promo whining about how unfair it was to put him, a Canadian, against two Americans.
You know what they should have done is they should have had like dropped hints. So instead of yelling like remember the fire, Bearer, because he got burned. So he could have been injured. And he could have had a cane. And so as he was being throttled, the cane goes flying and Paul just goes, my cane! And then Undertaker stops because he hears cane. And it's all slowly building up. Christmas episode, candy canes everywhere. The cane! This one goes flying. You know what I mean? Foreshadowing.
I know what you mean.
Oh.
He goes to get his coffee and he knocks the sweet and low. I want that pure cane
Sugar. So many ways they could have done this.
Yeah.
Instead of just yelling, remember the fire.
He
Fire!
invites Undertaker to come watch Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Anyway, Owen
Of all the ideas, that's the most preposterous I've come up with.
Owen didn't want to wrestle two Americans, so he could lose the title without being pinned, but he'd find a way to
Have you seen The
go
Golden
right.
Truth? That's what it's Hulu. If you haven't been watching Hulu, this wouldn't be ridiculous.
It showed Steve Austin doing a disclaimer for his first video. Can't say DVD. It was on VHS tape. Promised there would be no dancing to sparklers, just cursing and violence.
Cool.
And Vince was sure to note that normal WWF programming was TV PG. This video was TVM.
Oh.
You see him move.
Wow.
Flash Funk versus Sabu.
Like, what could they have put on there that was anything worse than you'd see on television? It was a compilation.
There was a lot of
I'm sure
cussing, and there was, I think...
He didn't cuss on television?
I'm sure they did backstage segments where he just curse more.
The real cuss words that you can't say on television.
But when did he say those?
They would have filmed a special segment.
Oh, new footage?
Yeah.
I think there might have been a booby, too. I'm not sure.
No.
Not then. Maybe later.
I was
Later.
on the DX one. I'm
The
sorry.
DX one definitely had boobies. Flash Funk versus Sabu.
What a spot fest.
This, it was very much an ECW match where 30 seconds in, let's start hitting finishers and kicking out. Everything looked cool, but it was just top rope splash, diving Rana, big tope, big plancha.
It was like that La Parka match on Nitro. There was just nothing but a whole bunch of moves. Or not the La Parka match, the Hector Garza match.
This is much better than that.
It was much better. This match was not very good by modern standards, but I can imagine folks in 1997 just thinking, man, this is the best match on Raw
compared
ever.
to watching the rest of the show, as we've noted, it has a lot of pig farmers on it. And suddenly you have these two maniacs out there doing all these dives, and you think, holy crap! It's like you skipped 10 years. Now you watch it, as a wrestling match, there was nothing to it. It was two guys taking turns doing giant moves. Also, Fonzie was out there with his whistle, which I had forgotten how wretchedly annoying what that was. I can't believe nobody in Detroit killed him.
I think it was Paulie that said we got him out of the
He was Sabu's manager.
Yeah.
yes, we got him out of the
Detroit.
Henry Ford Clinic.
That's why nobody in Detroit would kill him.
Thanks for
I
stepping
see.
on that.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yes, you mean the... You want to say it again, Craig?
Yes, he said that we adopted him from the Betty Ford Clinic.
Where he graduated twice.
Right. It was funny then.
He also said, no matter what Eric Bischoff said, Public Enemy has stolen the table-breaking gimmick from Sabu.
This is the first time, I think, that they mentioned the words Eric Bischoff and Nitro
Nitro
on
got
Raw.
him, yeah.
He mentioned Nitro.
Yeah. So after all these highlights, they're brawling outside. Sabu lays him out on a table. The bell rings. We were told it was a double count out. This had to have been the fastest double count in history. He was counting time and a half on this for sure. Sabu doesn't care.
Maybe he just really counted to 10. And we're so not used to it going 10 seconds that we're shocked.
Except on Monday.
Usually a 10 counts 3 hours.
Yeah. So Sabu goes to run through the table. Table doesn't break. He did this with a top rope rolling dive, by the way. That didn't work. Or moonsault. Moonsault first. It didn't break. So then he thought, perhaps if I just stand here and jump up into a splash, maybe that'll break the table. It didn't work either. And finally, he went to the top rope and did a big giant rolling dive and destroyed the table. And
Did you see this table?
Yeah, it was
It was a table that
industrial.
could support the weight of 400 pounds of man falling on it repeatedly.
You could have fucking landed a jet on this table
Yeah.
and you wouldn't have broken the table. It was like a giant... I can't even remember ever seeing a table like this. It was like in physics class or something like that. Just a big, heavy, fucking giant, hard table with a steel bar underneath it.
Even when he did the flip dive, it didn't break the table.
No, he broke the
it
leg.
broke the leg.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck were they thinking? You couldn't find one normal folding table in the whole building. You had to bring this goddamn thing out.
You remember the little tables they used in Japan, and Sabu would just absolutely destroy himself trying to break those little tables, but no bigger than this desk.
God. Dude, he'd never break this desk. I think it was these kind of tables. The one Vinny's on right there, never break that desk. This one you'd break.
Craig,
I always like a
In the
challenge.
middle.
there's a step ladder here somewhere.
Craig, the
Get this
one you're
done.
sitting at, you could break. Vinny's, you ain't breaking. Hey, stop shaking that.
See if I can break.
You can't break it.
I can help.
I could drop you off the fucking roof and you wouldn't break that table. This one, you'd go right through.
Wheels are turning.
You can try it later.
Anyway, Sabu then stormed through the crowd, terrifying people, tossing chairs everywhere. And they couldn't get rid of him fast enough. It was certainly different, no doubt about that. Mankind versus Davey Boy Smith. Mankind comes out wearing the Austin t-shirt and the Pick Me Steve sign. Dedicates the match to his friend Steve Austin. They get Austin on the phone, who first orders Vince never call me collect again. And he wished his brother Kevin a speedy recovery so Kevin could get back to work and pay Austin the money he owed him.
Well, let's talk about what happened to this guy.
Got stepped on by a bull.
Stepped on. I shouldn't laugh. This seems like a very serious issue here. But yeah, he wanted to say hi to his brother, who got stepped on by a bull.
Yeah,
What a line of work.
probably a rancher working with bulls. Hazard of the job.
Crying out loud. If only there had been GoFundMe back then.
I don't think they still do. The Colorado Buffaloes college football team used to have a live buffalo that came out
Pretty
stomping.
sure they
and-
still do.
Yeah. And before the game. And one time something went wrong and it stepped on somebody's foot and broke his ankle. So he bought the bull, had it slaughtered, and ate it.
Wow.
I like the cut of that guy's jib.
Vengeance.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Austin, he said that he talked about being on antidepressants and anti-inflammatories and anti-everything, but he was going to make the house shows this weekend. Wanted to make that clear. They asked him about teaming with Mankind. He said as far as he was concerned, Shawn Michaels was still his tag team partner, whether he liked it or not, but he did appreciate Mankind's tribute to the greatest wrestler in the world. So Mankind, as always, is out there taking bumps in the ramp for no reason.
He did it a second time. Don't call me collect again. I'll whip your ass.
Yes. Mankind got the claw on him, but Davey Boy broke it up with a low blow, and then just grabbed a chair and whacked him with it for the DQ, and then began to hit him in the head with the chair.
I do like the idea that Steve Austin was sitting at home, and Vince called him collect.
And Steve accepted.
Yeah, he could have said no, but he was like, I do have some shit that I want to talk. But then I'll make sure I let this guy know, don't ever do this again.
Well, how do you wish your brother well?
Call him.
That's fair.
Well, he didn't want to wish him well. He wanted to nationally shame him for owing him $30.
I think you're underselling this chair shot.
Well, I was on it, and we went back to the collect call. Yeah, Davey Boy twice hit Mankind in the head really hard with a chair. Once to the top of the skull, and then once right to the face.
And the one he was swinging from the side, it's not like just the seat is going to crack him in the head. The little bar that, holds the chair together is, thicker than the seat itself. Right up the ear.
I know people are absolutely sick of me talking about this, but I don't give a shit because I hear it on a weekly basis. Do you remember in 1999, I believe, when The Rock and Mankind had a match and The Rock waffled him with like a million chair shots?
It's 21 or something like
and
that.
ended up in Beyond the Mat or whatever, and Mankind's wife and children are wailing and crying in the front row. We knew then this was no good.
Yeah.
We did not discover this in the mid-2000s.
No.
So stop with the horse shit, everybody. I guarantee if you go back and read Figure 4 from this week, I was outraged by these chair shots.
There's many, many more to come in the next few months.
Uh-huh. That is true. So they plugged the house show loop coming up, including a show in Utah, and they promised Karl Malone would be there. Huge wrestling fan. Bet they regret putting him over in like 2 months.
Yeah, he worked for the other company, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Soon. Had a tremendous segment backstage. So there's a triple threat tonight. Owen versus Hunter versus Goldust. And Goldust is back there with Marlena. Hunter's back there with Chyna. Owen's back there with Pillman. And there's Gorilla Monsoon there and various other geeks. And Owen is outraged. How dare you let Hunter go out there with Chyna? How dare you let Marlena out there? I demand Brian Pillman get to be in my corner. And Gorilla says, fine. Owen says, it's not fair that I would be out there by myself. You must let Pillman go with me. Monsoon says, I don't have a problem with that. And this goes on for a while, and after 30 or 40 seconds, it dawns on Owen that Gorilla's agreeing with him, and he stops and turns to Pillman and says, I knew they would cave in if I pressured him. And they leave. Hunter laughed. I laughed. That was funny. Had a highlight reel of Intercontinental Champions of the past. Then we had the triple threat match, Owen Hart versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Goldust for the Intercontinental title. Pat Patterson, a special ref, just because he was the first IC champ. Claimed it was the first triple threat on Raw. Then they did the match, and it's been a long time since I've seen a triple threat that didn't feel like one giant spot from beginning to end.
That's because this is one of the first, this may have been the first WWE triple threat match.
It was better.
Well, yeah, because
so much better
they didn't know
this
what
way.
the fuck they were doing, and they had no agent who has put together 5,000 triple threat matches telling them all these spots to do.
Is that why they had Patterson out there?
No, it was just Intercontinental deal. I think that they just wanted him out there for whatever. But the point of it is, they just went out there, and they had to put together a match with 3 guys, and so they just did a few things because they didn't know any better.
No.
It was like the first ladder match, which the first ladder match with Shawn and Razor was a wrestling match, and they had a ladder in it.
Yeah.
And so they did a few spots. Totally different from today. That's what this was.
Yeah.
It's very refreshing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote. This was refreshing. This, because they were really in there and didn't know what they were doing, they just did what someone would have done in a real freeway fight. That guy's going for a pin. I better break that up. Let's double team this guy. All right, now that I've double teamed for 2 seconds, now this guy's back is turned. I'll jump him. And it was all unpredictable, and it was all organic. That's the word I like to use. It was not scripted. It was not a dance. Had a spot in the middle where Hunter got knocked out of the ring. Goldust hit the curtain call on Owen, and the ref counted 3, but Owen did in fact have his foot on the ropes. So
this was great because he has his foot on the ropes, and it's obvious that this was not a fair finish. And the announcers state, well, referee's decision is final.
Yeah. So Owen and Pillman and Hunter are all protesting because now Hunter's lost too.
But the referee's decision is final.
That's right. But Gorilla Monsoon comes out, and they go to break. They come back from break and show that during the break, Monsoon showed Patterson the finish via instant replay on the big screen, and the match was restarted.
This is not a shoot. Why did Vince tell us that the referee's decision is final if he knew that the match was going to be restarted? Am I the only one that got anything out of that?
It's the referee's decision is final unless the referee himself changes it.
Well, then it's fucking not final.
Wow.
But it's still the referee making the decision.
Doesn't matter. This was dumb.
Anyway, the match is restarted, so now both heels are pissed at Goldust because he almost won. They work him over, but he fights them off. He makes a great comeback against both of them.
Until the referee's final decision is final.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway.
Things you get caught up on.
Hey, everybody gets caught up on something different,
That's true.
as we'll learn on this show at some point.
Hunter and Owen are brawling on the floor. This distracts Patterson. China hits the ring, hits Goldust with a standing Hurricane Rana.
A nice Hurricane Rana.
It was very cool, yeah. Owen hits Hunter with a spin kick. He makes a cover. Goldust comes off the top to break that up, but Owen dodges. Goldust hits Hunter. Then Pillman holds Goldust back as Owen covers Hunter for the win. It went a little long, but this is so much better than most three-ways you see these days.
Not too bad.
I enjoyed that. Bret Hart came out for a promo. Okay. Sometimes lines sound good in the moment and then come off dated when you watch them 20 years later. He said, the Legion of Doom are the greatest tag team of all time. Not.
I liked it.
So he says he and Anvil.
Can we mention, by the way, we glossed over this. At the very beginning of the show, when Ahmed came out, he was wearing a fanny pack.
Oh, yeah.
As he was attempting to intimidate
Dude,
all of us.
have you
Speaking
seen-
of dated reference, I know what he wears.
That's more mundane than 90% of what he wears in the show.
I realize that. But sometimes we look back and it's like, man, this could have taken place today. And then there's sometimes we look back and it's like,
He's wearing a
are we
fanny
sure
pack.
this wasn't the 80s? Fucking fanny pack.
I think the fashions in wrestling are usually about 10 years behind the times.
Yes.
Wrestlers and their fans still had mullets in the mid-90s, long after the rest of the world had moved on.
As we'll discuss in the next match.
Yeah.
Notice no reference to Shawn Michaels whatsoever in this interview.
True.
Things were they were walking a tightrope with this fella.
Yeah.
But thank God Hitman Hearns was there.
So yes, he said he and Anvil are the greatest team of all time. Said Shamrock, speaking of things you can't say in 2016, Shamrock was coming in from the Ultimate Fairy Championship.
Wow.
And if Marlena got involved in Canada, his 4 sisters would knock her out. Asked for Austin, he was the scum of the earth and a thief. And speaking of thieves, I understand there's another guy here calling himself Hitman. And he turns to Hitman Hearns, and he's running him down and trying to keep track of how many championships he won and how many weight classes, and couldn't remember them all.
Can I say what he said about Hitman Hearns?
Oh, please.
I think I know where you're going, but have at it.
Bret the Hitman Hart is so angry that Hitman Hearns has stolen his nickname of the Hitman.
Yes.
The Bret Hart says, and I quote,
Stop right there. Let's keep in mind, I'm not gonna steal your thunder. Between their respective sports, these men won like a dozen world championships.
yeah,
They're not school children.
I don't think you're the Hitman. Now, when I start with that, everybody listening to this who does not know what Bret Hart is going to say. They think what I'm going to say is, I don't think you're the Hitman. I think you're the shit man.
Not what he said.
That is not what Bret Hart said.
No.
He said, it doesn't even rhyme with hit.
No.
Not a bit.
Too many syllables.
I don't think you're the hit man. I think you're the chicken man.
Burn.
And this insult.
The chicken man.
Yeah. You know, the Padres got the chicken. Oh, you don't know. I'm sorry. Vinny, the Padres.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Even though I knew what the fucking Padres chicken was, that doesn't make this any better.
The funny part to me is less the fact that Bret said this and more the fact that pro fighter Thomas Hearns lost his mind.
Yeah, he was offended.
Yeah.
Chicken man?
The man
Fuck this!
He was called a chicken.
Dove over the barricade.
Now, this was the same man that once called Sid a big, stupid dummy, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yes.
I need to get Jericho on the show one of these days and say, when you go on the show and you call people a stupid idiot, is that because it's an homage to Bret Hart, calling people big, stupid dummies and chicken man?
So Thomas Hearns, upon being called a chicken man, can take no more, leaps the barricade, dives into
How
the ring.
could you? There's no insult once you hit chicken man.
There's nowhere to go.
No.
It's time to fight. So he wants to fight Bret. Bret makes a big show of removing his jacket, taking off his shades. And Neidhart's kind of, I wouldn't say holding him back, but wants to make sure Bret's ready.
He's in the way.
Well, yeah, he's really just in the way. And he turns around, and Hearns drops Neidhart with a series of body shots. And as soon as Neidhart hits the ground, Hearns' entourage hits the ring to pull him back. All the WWF geeks hit the ring to hold Bret back. And they're just separated. The place is going nuts chanting USA. And that's how it ended. And this was so perfect. Because they fed the boxer the flunky. So he had somebody to take out. Mm-hmm. Crowd got to cheer for their local guy, A. B, the American.
Proved he wasn't a chicken.
Proved he was not a chicken. They got the celebrity spot on there, so they had a chance to go for the Sports Center highlight and all that. But through it all, they still protected the actual main eventer. Bret came out of this looking no worse for wear. His brother-in-law got beat up.
Who was a geek.
Who was a geek, and he got beat up by a multi-time world champion boxer.
This was not Tyson and Austin, though.
Well,
No.
The key here is they mentioned Sports Center.
Yeah.
Because they were very angry that WCW was getting Sports Center coverage because they had Dennis Rodman.
I see.
And the irony, they were so mad about Sports Center that they thought, let's do something with Thomas Hitman Hearns. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if this made Sports Center. I'll bet you anything it didn't. But the point of this is, just 6-8 months later, they had the greatest Sports Center moment of all time from wrestling. So in the end of the day, they got their last laugh.
Thomas Hearns was 39 when this was filmed. I don't know if he was still fighting or not.
Dude, he fought through 2006.
Oh.
He fought for another 9 years.
Well, there you go. Anyway, this angle was great.
He was really that old?
Born in 58, it says.
Oh, my God.
Unless Wikipedia lies to me.
Sometimes.
Well, it has been known to lie.
I've heard. Let's see. Okay. Nation of Domination is backstage cutting a promo.
Can I speak on this for just a moment?
Have at it.
Savio Vega had a plan.
Did he? Did he
Which,
really
by the way,
plan?
when you hear this plan, you're going to understand why Farooq dumped his ass. His plan was to go into the new Nation of Domination locker room, which, of course, you had Farooq, Kama, D'Lo, and a very, very angry Ahmed Johnson. And he decided he was going to walk in there all by himself and cut a promo on Farooq about what a dick he thought Farooq was. Guess how this went? Poorly. He got his ass handed to him, and he got whipped like a government mule. What a fucking idiot. How could you have any sympathy for this guy with that kind of plan?
I agree with everything you said, although I must correct you on one detail. There were only 3 members of the Nation of Domination here.
Well, that's true.
We shall get back to that.
But there was 3.
Well, there was supposed to be 4.
Right.
But Ahmed really did hurt himself.
That's what I was getting
He
at.
fucked up his knee.
It took him 0 seconds to hurt himself after this turn.
Yes. But my point is, Savio's plan was that Ahmed would be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I agree with that. Savio's a moron.
Sure.
Savio's a dumb person here for trying this plan.
But they were missing Ahmed, who fucked himself up.
Scott Taylor versus Brian Christopher. Yes.
Taylor is one of those guys where it is impossible for me to believe that that's Scotty Too Hottie.
This was, in fact,
There's no way.
Too Cool Explodes. So Christopher does a backstage promo, vows to dominate the light heavyweight division the way he dominated the USWA, and his speaking cadence is exactly that of his father, just a little bit more of a southern drawl. So, they're doing this match. Christopher looks like a trained professional wrestler. Scott Taylor looks like a below-average backyarder.
Mm-hmm.
His gear, he's got the blonde mullet. His gear is like, I'll get black tights, and I will break all records for Fringe. Just black plastic strips hanging everywhere.
And lace. Laces, not lace.
Either way. Now, yes, Brian, you're right. This is not Scotty Too Hottie. This was Scott Taylor. And Scott Taylor was terrible.
He screwed up an Irish whip.
He went to do like a leg lariat and like right at the point of jumping changed his mind. Just sort of threw his leg up and Christopher had to fall down. There was other amateur hour stuff. It was all quite terrible. They asked Lawler if he was Christopher's father. Lawler never confirmed or denied this, just said Paul Heyman is a liar. He's got a point there. Said nobody cared who Christopher's dad was, and eventually Christopher had a reverse DDT and a top rope leg drop for the win.
The hip-hop drop. Vinny.
We know all
It
about...
was, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we know all about Wikipedia's accuracy, but I want to read a little bit about Scotty Too Hottie here, which might explain a little bit about his run. First off, he had to have written this himself, because who else would know this information? Garland, which is Scotty's real name, continued to attend college throughout his early tenure, and in 1994, he supplemented his income by working as a Fleet Bank bank teller and as the assistant manager of a Spencer's Gifts outlet.
Oh.
First off, there was an outlet for Spencer's Gifts.
I assume they were all outlets.
In 1997, Garland, now working for an insurance company, planned to wrestle tryout matches for Extreme Championship Wrestling. Upon hearing of his plans, president of the WWF Talent Relations, Bruce Pritchard, signed him to a contract. He was raided from an ECW tryout, and then he was put into this deal here.
There you go, then. Main event. Undertaker and Vader versus Farooq and D'Lo Brown in a tag team tournament match.
Shit. Am I wrong?
No.
In no way.
This was goddamn horrible.
He had a terrible, terrible match. I am still more impressed, though, that literally Undertaker joined the Nation of Domination at the close of last week's show.
Ahmed.
I'm sorry, Ahmed. Thank you. That's an important difference. Undertaker would have been a weird fit. Ahmed joined the Nation of Domination at the close of last week's show. He came out here at a promo over the opening of this week's show and then got into a brawl and got hurt. He was seriously a member of the Nation for less than 10 minutes of camera time before suffering his first injury. It's astounding, this guy.
Is it really?
Yes.
Look at the guy.
Well, there's that. So, the Disciples of Apocalypse wander down the ramp. They get into a brawl with the Nation. Taker joins in, and he's just dead, so he's attacking the living, black and white alike. After the break, the Disciples have left. Tag match is still going on. And it's all Vader in the ring for his team. It all sucks.
It did. He's not lying. This sucked so much.
And Taker is standing there and Perry's berating him. And finally, Vader goes and shoves Taker. Taker punches him back. Neither of these were tags. Farooq hit Vader with a lariat and pinned him.
Well, they were both tags.
Oh, that works. All right. That makes sense. So Vader's pinned. Farooq and D'Lo advance in the tag team tournament.
Fuck, this tag team tournament sucked. It sucked.
It's really bad. Vader goes after Taker afterwards. Taker, and the most amazing thing in the whole show, actually, grabs Taker and tombstones him.
Vader.
God damn, what did I say?
You said Taker, Tombstone, Taker. Which would also be very, very difficult.
Even more.
That would be more weird than him joining the Nation of Domination.
It would.
Could have got Brian Lee in there.
He was there.
That's true.
He was in the Disciples. See? Anyway.
It's not impossible.
Regardless,
And by the way, can we talk a little bit about the big boot that Vader took before the tombstone?
Yes, that's what we're here for.
He whips Vader into the ropes, and he lifts his leg up, and Vader runs into it and just stands there. And, like, Undertaker's foot is just resting on him for a little while. And then Vader just stumbles back into the ropes. And then he charges at Undertaker with a full head of steam so that he could do a full cartwheel up into the Undertaker's tombstone. This whole thing was terrible. This made me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. I was disgusted.
Wow.
With everybody's performance here. I was sickened. This grotesquity.
It was a very bad main event Raw match.
Fucking horrible. The only good thing about it was afterwards Paul was very mad that Taker has fucked up the tag team tournament because he really wanted those tag team belts. He vows that next week he's going to tell the whole world the Undertaker's secret. And Undertaker, who's so over this now, just looks at Paul. He does a throat-cutting gesture. He whips his hair back. He does the zombie eyes, and he walks away. That was actually fucking great. And I loved that now Paul Bearer is worried. Because like Savio Vega, that was his plan. I'm going to tell the Undertaker's secret, which he doesn't want me to tell. And now I'm scared that he may kill me. No shit. This was horrible.
There's a scene in The Dark Knight where a man believes he has discovered Batman's secret identity. And he goes to Morgan Freeman and essentially says, I'm going to give me all this money or I will expose Batman's identity. And Morgan Freeman says, so you believe that your boss is a highly trained, highly equipped, dangerous, out-of-control vigilante, and your plan is to blackmail him. Same thing. He didn't have a good plan either.
And there was a lot of bad plans on this show. You know what's a bad plan? Putting the show on the air. I didn't like it this week.
Wow.
I thought this show sucked.
I liked it better than Nitro, although that may be skewed by my terrible viewing experience.
Nitro was just boring. Raw had some bad stuff.
Scott Taylor.
Hog.
No. Pig.
Pig.
Pig was much worse.
Tag team tournament. Let me go back and look over this. New Nation was fine. Shamrock and Rockabilly sucked.
It was 2 minutes. How could it suck?
LOD and the Hog Farmers
Just let 'em
was
go.
fine. Flash Funk and Sabu was fun. Mankind and Bulldog was whatever. Three-Way was pretty good. Bret was funny. That was a good show. It was a main event that really ruined it for me. God, I hated that main event.
You're as fickle as the sea.
And now you know, everyone, what I have had to work with for the past 10 years.
It just goes to show how important your main event is. That's what you remember. Come on, don't even tell me that wasn't a bad main event.
Oh, it was awful.
That main event was worse than anything I've seen
damn
this
awful.
year.
Here then.
They were way better. Trust me, by the time this is over, you'll agree that they were way better than last week. Especially once we get talking about Paul Bearer. My fucking hero. I'll just talk about him right now. Let me talk a little bit about Paul. Is this guy, like, what a tragedy that Paul Bearer has passed away. He was on the show many times, and he was such a great guest and such a nice guy. They would always talk about how he was a legit mortician. And he would always talk about how he would have people, loved ones would die. And they would go and they would be at the funeral parlor and they would recognize Paul Bearer as the one actually doing the work on their deceased loved ones. Mm-hmm. And it actually would make them feel better. They were like, oh my God, Paul Bearer is doing this work. They were like so happy. And like, I'm sure this guy made a shit ton of money in wrestling. But when it was over, when he was not doing wrestling, he went back and he did that job again. Because he wanted to make people's lives better. He took pride in his job as a mortician. I know, Craig. I know.
Shot me a look.
I know.
I'm not sure that was meant for you or me.
How much worse can it get, Brian?
He's
Make life better, you say.
obviously the lives of the dead people were not going to be made better. Craig, thank you for pointing that out. But the point of this is, he was like a super nice guy, and he was such a talented performer. I was watching this thing here. You got to remember, like, in 1997, this was hated. This Paul Bearer interview where he's talking about Undertaker and the thing burning down, and I mean, people hated this with a passion. And now part of it is because
It sucks.
Storylines suck today, and interviews suck today.
I like this.
So no way, dude, this was awesome. I was so
Paul
blown
Bearer's
away.
delivery was excellent.
Yes.
Storyline sucked.
The storyline's horrible. and really, you can't even get mad at the storyline today because this was just day one.
It is.
Like, fuck.
the story's still unfolding.
If you thought it was bad now, you just wait, dude. It gets way worse.
Yeah.
But as far as like delivery of this, he was so great. He was so completely Paul Bearer, partly because he was Paul Bearer in real life. He was just a great character. And I got thinking about it. How many times have we talked about The Undertaker? And the fact that The Undertaker is like the greatest gimmick in WWE and maybe wrestling history. Like, he came in as a cartoon character in the late 80s, early 90s. And here he is, it's 2016, and he may wrestle at next year's WrestleMania. He's still around. He's an all-time Hall of Fame legend of professional wrestling. And when I watched this Paul Bearer thing, I thought, this dude doesn't get enough credit. Because Paul Bearer was a very important part of his act. The Undertaker act, the Kane act, the way the whole thing came together, Paul Bearer weaving in and out of the guy's career for his whole life. Like, Paul Bearer, this man was great. Doesn't get the credit he deserves. And God, he was great on this show.
Show opened with Ken Shamrock versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And a quick inset promo from Hunter saying Shamrock might be the world's most dangerous man, but he had something better. And China flexes her bicep and says, the world's most dangerous woman.
Is that really better than the world's most dangerous man?
I think they won here, so yeah, if I remember right. There was a Jeremy Borash sign in the crowd,
Yeah, what was that about?
which blew me away. I looked it up. As best I can tell, in 1997, Jeremy Borash was working at a radio station in Minnesota, hosting a Saturday morning wrestling show.
Wow.
And apparently it got picked up here in Des Moines, Iowa. But still caught me very off guard.
Well, or people were trading those tapes, audio tapes.
That's true. There's also an RF video phone number. Someone helped.
Yeah.
That was the whole sign. Just hold up RF video and the phone number.
People
so.
legitimately took cassette tapes and they mailed them to each other for wrestling radio shows.
Oh, for wrestling shows, yeah.
Yeah, not joking.
Created a lot of tape trading himself.
No.
Not audio.
No. So they're having this match. Hunter hits his snapmare, or as Vince McMahon calls it, a lame snapmare. And I thought, I immediately thought I must have misheard him, and I moved on. And then Jerry Lawler asks, a what kind of snapmare? Then I went back to see, was it really that bad? It was pretty lame, but it was all Shamrock's fault. He just kind of rolled over to the side.
You know what Shamrock is God, he was great. For those that aren't aware, Vinny's wrestling name came from Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock, before he ever got into UFC, was a pro wrestler working under the name Vince Torelli.
Vince Torelli.
And Matt Farmer heard my name was Vince and started calling me Vince Torelli.
And you became Shoulders Torelli.
And I was laughing at a man named Shoulders Newman because I thought Shoulders was the worst first name pro wrestler ever.
That's right. That was me, because that was your big mistake. We were
was.
in my car,
Yes.
and you got a ring around the Northwest. And
Yes.
you were making so much fun of Shoulders Newman
Yeah.
that it was inevitable that
Yeah.
you'd become Shoulders Torelli.
And ironically, I don't have very big shoulders.
No, you don't.
No.
But they are wider than your ass.
They are wide. They're just not big.
No.
Anyway.
But anyway, Ken Shamrock had taken years off to fight, and he comes back to professional wrestling, and man, that dude slid right back in. He was good.
For the most part, yeah. He did take the one lame snapmare, and that was it. So China throws him into the stairs. Mankind makes his way down the ramp. This distracts Hunter. I should keep tally of this, by the way. Here we are in 1997. Let's count the distraction finishes.
Oh, man, there's more I got to talk about than distractions, but go ahead.
Mankind distracts Hunter. Shamrock hits a belly to belly and gets the win. So there you go. I'll write that down here. Distractions, 1.
This was just Hunter being a heel and a great heel. He got the heat with a thumb to the eye. Shamrock was trying to wrestle him, and all Hunter was doing was cheating. It's pretty good.
Vince earlier on also was talking about how no matter how much you know, nothing compares to a foundation of good basics. I was like, thank you, Vince, for that knowledge. Anyway, Shamrock gets the belly to belly, and he makes the cover, and the ref goes 1, 2, and then Hunter gets his shoulder up right after 3. I was like, you couldn't even stay down for 3 seconds. Like, you had to almost kick out of Ken Shamrock's belly to belly. So I was getting a little annoyed, but we'll continue on.
They recapped Ahmed Johnson joining the Nation of Domination last week, and the brawl between the Nation and the Disciples of Apocalypse, and then Ahmed got hurt and had surgery again. He then did a promo from the hospital.
It's Seth Rollins, 19 years earlier. This was so weird.
Yeah, he was drugged up.
Well, I mean,
Are you sure?
It was weird
I
because
felt like it.
Maybe
I was. I
He has
don't know.
normal promo, but he's in a hospital, so he's whispering.
he was cutting this promo, and it was about how he was going to come back and get revenge, and he was going to fight his way back, and he was never going to give up like a total babyface. Yeah. But he's talking about killing folks.
He said get his hands on the Undertaker, and the DOA is going to kill them.
Yeah, DOA is dead on arrival, he says.
Yes, and he finishes up, and they go back to the announcers, and Vince McMahon says in this exact tone, "All right, indeed." One of his employees is threatened to murder several others, and he's fine with that. Has Michael Cole been on the show before?
Nope, this was his
Michael
debut.
Cole made his Monday Night Raw debut.
What a geek.
Oh my God, this guy was like the biggest geek I've ever seen in my whole life.
Was.
But you know what?
Nothing's changed.
Let me give the guy credit. First off, he was so damn excited. He could not even contain his excitement. Like literally, he was bouncing and jumping up and down with excitement. He was 1,000 times better than your average geek on Raw and SmackDown today. Which, by the way,
That's a low bar, but okay.
I was on the board. I can't remember the girl's name, but they hired some new girl to do interviews backstage, and she's got this background in sports journalism or something like that. I don't even remember. But they've done a couple of these hirings, and all I can think of is, why are you wasting your money? Like, given what you ask them to do, why would you spend the money to hire anybody with any degree or experience? All you're doing is having them hold a mic and ask a stupid generic question and then shut up. What a waste of money.
This should be a minimum wage job.
Oh, my God.
So he was interviewing the Legion of Doom. We just talked about this. We watched the Road Warriors from the 80s on Sundays, and they're amazingly great. And we watched the
Craig was right last
cartoon
week.
version of the 90s here. Hawk
Sucks.
threatening to turn them into a small pile of bat, guano, and other small animal excrements.
Yeah.
All right, then. Sonny had cash stuffed in her cleavage.
You know what's funny is 11 years earlier to the week was Hawk's greatest promo ever, in my opinion.
That fantastic one about getting revenge on the Horseman.
And here we are 11 years later to the week, and it may have been the worst promo I ever saw him cut, at least till he really went off the rails.
Yeah. So they were doing $1 million giveaway, and Vince told Sonny she was ineligible to win, but maybe they could work something out later.
That was creepy.
And she was fine with it, which is even creepier.
That makes it less creepy, actually, Vinny.
All right. Legion of Doom versus Farooq and D'Lo in the semifinals of the tag tournament.
They had footage of Henry Godwin getting his neck broken.
Again.
Dude, he looked like he could have been killed.
Yeah.
And here the guy decided he was just going to wrestle 3 months later.
Yeah.
I would never have gotten within 1,000 feet of a ring again after that happened to me.
So here's what happened in the next maybe 6 minutes. Road Warriors hit D'Lo with a Doomsday device. Animal started brawling with Kama on the floor. This distracted the ref, who did not call for the DQ, even though Kama was not in the match. Henry Godwin hit the ring. Phineas tossed him the slop bucket. Henry dropped the bucket. Henry picked up the bucket. He hit Hawk with it. He ran away. Farooq covered Hawk. The ref counted 3. Hawk kicked out at 3.0001.
Oh, another one.
Jim Ross screamed that Farooq was not legal. Road Warriors chased the Godwins away. And I thought, Jesus Christ. That was only 3 minutes, by the way. I was exhausted. Now there's more. Farooq calls Vince into the ring for a promo. He is upset that Ahmed got hurt, and instead of putting another member of the nation in there, they put a white man to face Undertaker, and it's going to be Vader versus Taker for the title. Farooq runs down Vince. He runs down the DOA. He runs down Crush. He runs down the Undertaker. He runs down Savio Vega. Savio Vega appears and vows revenge. Farooq says, "Come fight." Savio comes out with, as Jim Ross put it, Savio's gang, I guess. They brawl for a while. Nobody cared. Geek separated them. Then the DOA came out. They raved their bike engines like assholes. This was Iowa. Everyone cheered the white dudes. It's all eventually settled down into a brawl, but that was one giant, long, overstuffed, infuriating segment.
Video is beautiful.
Thank you.
I feel better now.
There's more to come.
Can we go backwards and talk about how
If there's anything you'd like to add to any of that.
another fucker kicked out at 3? Can Vince just lay down the law? Like, if you're losing, just lose. This is there are 2 matches so far on the show, and both guys have kicked out at the 3 count. And, as we shall see, I don't know what it was this week, but it was all about beating a guy, and then that guy makes his own comeback.
That happened. This was not a distraction finish. This was an interference finish, but I will count that too. I'll count that separately. The only thing I will say, this isn't so much an excuse for Hawk, but it's more par for the course because the Road Warriors spent most of their careers not selling for anyone. I think Hunter could have stayed down for Ken Shamrock's belly-to-belly longer. Okay.
Michael Cole with Los Boricuas. Michael Cole's a guy who legit was a war correspondent, and he looked way over his head interviewing Los Boricuas. He looked horrified. Like, his eyes were wide, and he looked scared to death.
So, they said, we're Los Boricuas. Apparently, none of them have names. Only Sabu was named. And they all shouted and said, I don't know, Arriba and stuff, and that was it.
They identified one of them as Jesus.
The other one was Miguel Perez, and
there was another guy.
There's another
I think,
fella.
was there another guy?
Yeah,
I don't even remember.
Fidel Sierra?
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
There was just some guys. This sucked.
They plugged WWF Magazine, saying they had secret long-distance paparazzi shots of Sonny hanging out with Brian Pillman.
Oh, man. Sunny days for him.
That
guess
girl
so.
gets around.
And the best part was they have all these photos.
Sure.
They're showing these photos on screen, and they're like, for more photos, and of course, Sonny will not be wearing a lot in these photos.
Yes.
You can grab WWE Magazine. Didn't mention that it was edited by Vince Russo this week, I might add.
No.
But anyway, one of the shots is Pillman on a deck standing there with Sonny. And he's the fucking one wearing the Daisy Dukes.
Yes, I did see that.
What the hell is he wearing?
Was there a fanny pack with them?
No.
Okay.
He was wearing Daisy Dukes and like a t-shirt with no sleeves.
Yes.
It was very wacky.
Well, Pillman's insane.
I saw the new Rock movie this weekend.
Central Intelligence.
It's funny because Rock's character wears a fanny pack.
Oh, really?
Does he?
Yes.
And they're coming back into style.
That's excellent. They showed Undertaker brooding backstage for exactly 6 seconds. Scott
I was at the fair.
Sorry, what?
I was at the fair.
Did you call it fair?
There's the only place you would see something like this. And there was a place that was selling like bags or purses. And so they had what I could only describe
How did Whitney get you out of there?
as a modified fanny pack.
All right.
It was a fanny pack that was the actual pack, but it didn't strap all the way around you. It like strapped onto the side a little bit into your belt buckles.
Aha.
And I was like, really? So there's an audience that won't wear a fucking fanny pack, but they'll wear this thing because it doesn't go all the way around your
'Cause a
body.
belt is too cumbersome.
Yeah. I was like, man, only at the fair. This was like last year.
So Scott Putski versus Brian Christopher.
I got one other story. It's amazing the things I remember when I talk about this.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, I had a fanny pack.
Yeah, you did.
Okay? Because everybody did in the 90s.
Sure.
We were wrestling fans. But I was also a fan of the WWE title belts.
Where is this going?
You'll see. So I had a fanny pack that had the plastic clip in the back. You know, you clip it on and off, just the plastic gimmick. Vinny's looking at me, humping my own fist right here. But anyway,
Get that drop.
so because I wanted, I made a combination. I went to the Payless at the bottom. Okay, you, Vinny, you idiot. You're ruining my story.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Folks, we don't have a webcam. Brian apparently thinks the fanny packs put together in a very lewd and suggestive manner. I would say pornographic.
Well, you know, mine did. That's why they call it a fanny pack. Anyway, went down to the Payless, and I bought a bunch of snaps. And so I added snaps to the fanny pack so that I could snap it on like a wrestling belt.
Ah,
And I could
yes.
snap it off.
Yes.
Yeah, I was so awesome.
Has there ever been a wrestler who won a championship and then attached a fanny pack to the belt?
No,
That needs to be done.
if Ahmed Johnson hadn't been black and won that title,
Yes, if he'd gotten the title shot he deserved,
he could have taken his fanny pack that he wore every week and
Yes.
added it to the WWE Championship.
clip it right on there.
Yeah.
Man,
Can you believe, by the way, this? I mean, this actually has to do with the show. Now we've got a storyline where there's a group of black fellas, a group of white skinheads, and a group of Puerto Ricans that are having a race war.
yeah.
What the fuck?
What are you looking at me for?
Yes, the story is, yes, the leaders of these gangs were once pals and they've had a falling out. But at its heart, this is a story about people beating up because their skin's different color.
God.
Not to mention, if you get kicked out of the club, you go home and you call some of your friends. And then you make a gang and go get them.
Yeah. It's like when it first began, it was kind of like, well, they're mentioning that they're black and that there's no black WWF champion. It's sort of like, kind of walking the line right there. Now they fucking just leaped right over the line.
Huh?
They're just totally all in with this. Who thought this was a good idea? And it sucks in the ring.
That is a good point as well. May I now speak on Scott Putski versus Brian Christopher?
Because I'm sure there's so much to say. Go ahead.
Maybe there wasn't. I had clips of Ivan Putski and Jerry Lawler.
Quit my story for this.
Well, go have another one then.
I don't. Go ahead.
Okay. They showed these clips and then asked if Lawler was Christopher's father. He said this is private business. And they plugged the cruiserweights, and Jim Ross promised this Sunday at the pay-per-view, you will all see the WWF debut of the great Asuke. So Putski's in there. Lawler made lots of Polish jokes, which fits right in, I guess, with the whole racial theme of the show now.
Oh, my God. Lawler? What the hell's going on?
So Putski makes his comeback. It's a top rope splash. Lawler jumps in the apron to distract him. Putski throws the Lawlers together, but when he tries a power slam, Lawler trips him. Christopher rolls him up for the win. I'm counting this as a distraction and an interference.
At least nobody kicked out at 3.
They pushed this like it was Putski's debut, even though 2 weeks ago he had a match with Leif Cassidy. They showed clips of his dad then. They showed clips of his dad now. It's kind of silly.
Well, this is his real debut.
I see. He lost in both debuts.
Well,
So the Lawlers
he'll
beat
keep
him
debuting till he wins.
hit a spike pile driver, sent him packing, told him to go cry to daddy, and called him, and I quote, a dumb Pollock.
Oh.
And I said on my couch, good Lord.
This show.
Yeah.
As they said about my grandfather, Jerry's just set in his ways.
I just think about everybody that wants the Attitude Era to come back, and it's like, really, is this what you want on Monday every night? Is race wars and this kind of thing?
Run-ins.
God.
Non-stop distraction bullshit. Finishes.
Aside from the good stuff, this sucked.
Write that one down.
Yeah. They plugged Steve Austin's video by showing him imitating Hulk Hogan in ECW.
That was gold, by the way.
Undertaker spoke from backstage. He said he had to revisit the worst night of his life, and the fans were going to hear a biased retelling of those events later from Paul Bearer.
How do you know that?
Well, he knew what the secret was.
Yeah, but Paul came out and lied, according to Undertaker. Like, how did he know that Paul was going to come out and lie?
Because Paul's evil.
He knows Paul very well.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think they're in cahoots.
I think that by the end they were at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he asked the fans, after Bearer tried to poison their minds, they gave him the opportunity to tell his side. He went back to brooding.
Last week he didn't give a shit. He was over it. Now he's thought about it for a week.
It does change week to week.
Man, he's worried.
He had clips of Sasuke whipping ass in Japan. They promised he would face Taka Michinoko
Yeah.
at the pay-per-view. Brian Pillman versus Mankind. Here's another one where we had 87 things going on at once.
I like this match. I thought this was a really good match.
He said Pillman had been fired as announcer from Shotgun Saturday Night after attacking a fan. He have now play a pre-recorded apology from Pillman, and it was, of course, very sarcastic. He apologized for having the guts to tell the truth and being the only man to stand up for himself, and he made some biting jokes about Marv Albert and Mike Tyson. So that was that. The Mankind comes out.
He was out of his mind. Eyes wide.
Yeah.
Yelling,
don't
screaming.
say.
He was very Brian Pillman here.
Right.
Mankind comes out, apologizes to Jim Ross for attacking him during their interview segment, presents him with a gift. It is a mannequin hand wearing Mankind's hand gimmick.
What a nice guy.
Then, as the match begins, we have a split-screen video with Austin addressing Mankind's campaign to be Austin's tag team partner. Austin says Mankind sucks. He doesn't care about Mankind. He doesn't care about Shawn Michaels. He's keeping his tag belts no matter what. That thing ends. As soon as that ends, Hunter and Chyna come out. They go to break. They come back. Pillman hits Mankind with the bell. The ref is looking right at it. He doesn't care. Pillman tries to stab Mankind in the face with a pencil. This time the ref stops him, but he does not call for the DQ. They keep brawling. Pillman follows through on his promise to bite the man. Mankind makes his comeback. Hunter hits the ring. Not a DQ. China takes the ref. Pillman and Hunter double team Mankind. Not a DQ. Hunter tries to use a chair. Mankind dodges. Hunter hits Pillman with the most gentle shot with a cushioned chair you ever saw. I shouldn't make fun of him for this, but it was funny. Mankind grabs the chair. He chases Hunter away. He gets countered out. He returns to cut a promo. Calls out Helmsley's name, and that's it. Again, a blur. A nonstop blur.
I liked it.
So what we learned in this match is it's okay to use gimmicks on your opponent on the outside of the ring.
You can have a 6'6", 300-pound man attack your foe outside the ring.
Right. And if they get into the ring, it might be okay.
Let's talk about my favorite
We'll have
spot
more to say
there.
on that, by the way.
So they're outside, and Pillman grabs a pencil, and he tries to stab Mick Foley. Now, the referee stops him, and as the referee is stopping him, I think Pillman must have thrown the pencil into the crowd or something like that. But Vince McMahon on commentary with utter disdain in his voice sputters, "That idiot."
Well,
I don't know why it was the delivery or something. There was also the deal where I understand the idea that if you attack a man with a weapon outside the ring, maybe the ref isn't going to call for the DQ. But when Pillman waffled Mankind with the ring bell, he waffled him and the referee. Bodies flying everywhere. What about the pencil in the crowd that could have hit a fan in the eyeball? Mm-hmm. We must have some rules here in this Attitude Era.
maybe that's why Vince was upset.
That's why he was upset. That's why he called him an idiot.
Remember that show we went to and Nails?
Yes, and
bashed
it was
that-
an AWF show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nails of Big Boss Man and Vince McMahon fame, not Tony.
Right.
He's doing this match and he just fucking throws a chair and it bounces off the top rope, bounces into the crowd, and just waylaid this fan.
It's horrible.
Oh my God.
Brent was there drinking Appletinis.
So sad I missed this.
I was expecting Vinny to say something else. Go ahead.
By the way, that's an interference finish. We're up now to 2 distractions, 3 interferences.
This show wasn't as good as I thought.
No.
But then we had the best
We had
thing on
your
the
favorite
show.
segment. Paul Bearer comes out for a promo. As he is nearing the ring, a goth girl, an Undertaker fan they claimed, jumped the guardrail, tackled him to the ground.
Backhaver, so we called him in that era.
She tackled Paul Bearer to the ground. Security led her away. Paul Bearer then got in the ring and moved on as if nothing had ever happened. Everyone no-sold this.
I loved, not Vince, I mean, they mentioned on commentary, but I loved it because this was the most unathletic fan. I mean that the nicest way possible. And she goes for a double leg on Paul Bearer.
It worked.
And it fucking worked. She took him down.
She had a hold of both of his ankles.
Well,
Paul was a hefty man.
his center of gravity was not over his base of support, and when that happens, you fall.
Right.
God, if Bill Watts had been there, that would have been the end of Paul Bearer. He'd have been out of there. But he didn't know something. He got in the ring. Thank God he didn't break both of his legs going down.
Just moved on. I thought I dreamt it at first.
Now, let's be fair about this promo here. As much as I love the delivery, the reality is you could see in the background fans just milling around and going to get something to eat and going to the bathroom and not paying any attention whatsoever to Paul Bearer.
Kind of like today.
And the funny thing is, he's telling the story, he's revealing the secret, which of course is that Undertaker burned down the funeral home and killed his parents and his brother, Kane. And as he's talking about how Undertaker killed his family, the fans cheer.
I don't know.
What?
I don't know what to tell you.
So they weren't paying attention, but they were paying attention enough to hear that Undertaker killed his fucking family, and they were like, yay! That's the Attitude Era for you. Death on WWE.
You know, this is very much as awful as this was on Raw. This, with just a little bit of tweaking, would have felt great on Lucha Underground. Maybe the Lucha Underground fans.
Could have been.
The biggest hero in Lucha Underground is the guy who breaks everyone's arms.
And quite frankly, the age of the Lucha Underground, the demos, it probably was these same
These
people.
are the same
actually,
people,
yeah.
yes. So here's the story, everyone.
I hope you can deliver it as well as Paul.
No, I won't even try. 20 years ago, there was a lovely little funeral home
On a hill.
on a hill amidst the oak. The family lived upstairs.
It's part of the problem with why there was such a fire.
Yeah.
Oak.
there's A lot of
There's wood everywhere.
foliage around, yeah.
Should have had a large parking lot and just empty space.
And oak is a hardwood and burns very hot.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So the mortician lived there, his wife, who was his secretary and also receptionist. And they had a lovely little family, 2 kids, a red-headed little punk, and a sweet kid named Kane. Bear said I was an apprentice under this mortician. I was learning my craft. And this child, this redheaded punk, you've probably guessed, that was the Undertaker. And there was always something wrong about him. He had a look in his eyes, the look of the devil.
They always rolled back.
And poor little Kane idolized the Undertaker. He was his hero, followed Taker around wherever he went. And for 2 years, Bearer watched this little circus unfold. He worked there. He was going to college at night, learning his skills. And he saw Taker and Kane taking embalming chemicals behind the garage and smoking cigarettes, as kids do.
So what were they doing with these embalming chemicals behind the
Sniffing
barn?
them.
Oh, is that what it was?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
I wasn't sure.
Thank you, Greg.
You can get them high.
Yeah. And then one day he was leaving, and he saw that redhead devil seed Undertaker. Something didn't seem right. But he left for school. Hours later, he came back and he saw fire trucks, ambulances, smoke.
No cell phones back then.
There weren't. And not really. And the funeral home in ashes. The family that had taken care of him was gone. He looks in the bushes, and there is the Undertaker. Taker had burned the home to the ground and killed his parents. And for 20 years,
his brother.
And his little brother Kane. For 20 years, Bearer had carried the secret with him, but Taker was a murderer, a goddamn murderer.
A goddamn murderer.
And he says this, thunder rolls, the lights flicker, and Bearer doesn't care. He has accomplished his mission. It's a job well done.
It was a fucking job well done. God, he was great. If only I could be as great as Paul Bearer.
That would be great. So they go to the break. They come back. Vader's congratulating Paul on how well he cut this promo. Sable is plugging the coffin full of money. By the way, we're all glossing over this. Okay, they're giving away $1 million. Great. Someone said, hey, to put this on TV, let's put it in a coffin.
Sure, yeah.
Our champion's a dead guy.
Yeah. It's a great place to put $1 million in a coffin.
Absolutely.
No one's fucking breaking in and open up the coffin that you've got in
No.
the master bedroom.
So Sable plugged this coffin full of money. Mark Merrill looked on with disapproval. And they're doing the contest with the money. They said, here's the first clue. So apparently there's a mystery to be solved.
What was the clue?
The clue was a video. Hunter is with some sweet young thing who is not China. He pulls up to a valet parking spot in his convertible. He tosses his keys to the valet parker. The valet parker hangs the key on a little key ring dealie. And then there's this guy. A random man in a smoking jacket. And he walks up and he points at the Hunter's car key, maybe his house key too, now that I think about it, and just says, the first clue is the key.
Huh.
So what I got out of this is there's some guy in a smoking jacket stalking Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I get out of it, it's a commercial.
Yeah.
The first clue is a key.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It's like Masquerade. Remember that book when you were a kid? No?
Can't say I do.
No.
Is it a dirty book?
Fuck no, it's a book about a treasure hunt.
Is it Choose Your Own Adventure?
No, it's a little kid's book. Never mind.
Headbangers versus Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith in a tag team tournament.
Jesus Christ. Thank God Bret Hart called in to entertain us by calling the heels scoundrels. That was way better than anything in the ring.
Oddly enough, this is like the best Headbangers match I've seen.
He was
Ever.
fucking Owen and Bulldog.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's true. This is the first time I think the Headbangers got through an entire match without fucking anything up. But don't worry, everyone. I will have more to say about the Headbangers shortly.
Hey, can I add that they have a match and Bulldog and Owen win and fucking somebody jumps to their feet immediately afterwards and tries to get their heat back.
Oh, yeah. Great. All right.
But the Headbanger jumps to his feet. They attack Owen and Davey. And Owen and Davey beat their ass.
Yes.
I fucking howled. Can you imagine?
I just like...
So we're going to beat you, but immediately afterwards, we want you to jump to your feet to get your heat back. But then they're going to beat the shit out of you again. Got it, guys? Okay.
I'm watching Davey Boy and Owen beat up Thrasher, and every time they hit this man, the fans cheer. And as this is happening, the announcers lie to us and say the Headbangers' popularity is growing. No,
Well,
Everyone hates them because they suck.
it was at such a low level that they had one good match. That now they're It's grown with you.
I did note here, Moss jumped up and attacked them and got his ass kicked again. That's what I wrote. Then there's more. Jim Cornette appears on the top of the ramp. In case you had forgotten, Cornette once managed Davey Boy and Owen, and they left him for actually Clarence Mason. And, of course, that didn't last long. But Cornette says, I have a team.
Oh, my God.
And it's too late to get these men in the tournament, but I want to show off how bad they are. And he blows a whistle, because someone needed to steal Bill Alfonso's gimmick. Out come the Headhunters.
Do you remember? I know Craig remembers. In the 90s, when these guys debuted on Raw, everybody was raving about the twin Abdullah the Butchers that could do moonsaults.
Yes.
Well, they had done some time in
That's exactly what
ECW.
they've done, by the way.
They were so fucking horrible on
They,
this show.
They were in a Royal Rumble before this.
Yeah, they were.
It was spots with
right.
Vader and Yoko.
They were ungodly terrible.
They had done some time in ECW, and before this, they'd actually had a dark match with Al Snow and PJ, who was Portuguese Man of War.
Just incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in the quote-unquote tape trading world, it was going around, and this match was really great. It was a dark match from like San Jose or something. And then they came in here and did this, which was not great.
First, it's an unbelievably bad six-way brawl. And about 15 seconds in, Owen and Davey say, this is beneath us. And they just leave. They just are not having any part of this.
Not before Davey Boy Smith in the Headhunters debut, quote-unquote, one of them allowed him to body slam them. Why would you do that?
Well, I don't know.
Because it was better than the guy running the ropes.
Well, that's true.
The guy did almost fall out of the ring running the ropes. The brawl between the Headbangers and the Headhunters. I can't say it's the worst thing I ever saw.
It was fucking close.
It may have been the worst thing I've seen in these 1997 shows. It was so bad. As Vince referred to them, these two oddly constructed gentlemen. One of them
Oddly
almost,
constructed. They were just fucking huge.
they
Fat.
Were, they were almost perfectly round. They were like 5'8" and 400 pounds each. And
Great
yes,
Khali is oddly constructed. These men were just fat.
this brawl was impossibly bad. And I don't even know how it ended. I just wrote, this was pro wrestling hell right here.
One of the Headbangers, let's just call him A, hit a big headbutt off the top rope. The second one hit a moonsault onto
Headhunters.
Headhunters. I'm sorry. Headhunters on this. B hit a moonsault on Mosh.
I wonder if that's why they brought him in. Because we have these guys bang their heads.
Squash these guys.
These guys hunt heads. They should fight. We had a Taker promo. It was 97 hours long.
It really was.
It was not that bad.
It wasn't even bad. It just went forever.
It was interesting to see a sensitive dead man.
It was for the first 96 hours, he was very emo. He admits it's true. His parents and little brother, they burned to death inside that family funeral home. My father caught myself and Kane playing with matches, and he punished us. He scolded us. And then, as I went to do my chores, I saw Kane leaving the embalming room with chemicals in his hand, but, quote, I thought nothing of it. He said Kane was his responsibility. His
He's
younger
all sorts
brother,
of things at that age.
I guess. Then he returned from his chores and heard the sirens and saw the smoke. Okay, how big is this funeral home that his chores took him out of sight distance?
Well, it was on top of a hill. Maybe he went down the hill.
To fetch water.
Yeah.
That makes as much sense as anything.
And then had to come back. Yeah, what the fuck chores was he doing anyway?
I don't know. Why were there chores at the funeral home?
Plowing the field, maybe.
It was a funeral home flat. I won't even make that joke.
Of all of the problems you have with this story.
Oh, there's more.
Okay.
So he claims he was not there when his house burned down and killed his family. And he said, no, it's true. I was not at the funeral. But that's because you, pallbearer, you took me to another funeral home to see the bodies. He talks about seeing the charred remains of his mother and the air escaping my lungs. He's on and on and on. Then he gets philosophical. Because without death, you see, there cannot be life. So I have taken it upon myself to walk a path that no one chooses to. And up to this point, I don't know how much film they burned, but it was one uninterrupted camera shot. And suddenly it cuts to a close-up of his hand, and suddenly the whole tone changes. Now he's very, very angry. And he says, I'm going to carry the spirits of my family against Paul Bearer and get my revenge. But that was like the last, like I say, the last hour of the 97 hours this promo lasted. But this totally felt like two completely different promos that they just badly spliced together into one cut. This was so terrible. Rockabilly versus Vader.
Oh my God.
Rockabilly broke the guitar over Vader's back. Vader no-sold it and killed him. And Taker goes dashing down the aisle to attack Vader, robbing us of a just winner in this contest. We'll never know who would have won between Vader and Rockabilly.
Oh, fear not. There's always next week, I'm sure.
He lays out Vader. Bear grabs the mic, calls him a murderer. So Taker grabs him, paintbrushes him, orders him to tell the truth, or I'll kill you right now, he says. Which is like the third or fourth time on this show someone has threatened murder.
Not just that, but Undertaker's threatened to kill him several times. It's like, just kill the dude already. You know what I mean? Are you going to kill him or not?
Shit, get out the pot.
Jesus. Come on, dude.
Undertaker slapped him so hard again and again and again.
Yeah, he gave him a good beating.
So he orders Paul to tell the truth, and Bear says, it is the truth. Kane told me. Taker pauses, slaps him again. Bear screams, no, it's true. Kane is alive. He's breathing, he says. It's the truth.
I got a question. So if Kane's alive, and Undertaker went to the funeral home and saw everybody's bodies.
Dun, dun, dun.
They must have found some other charred body and said, this is Kane.
It was a large house cat or something.
Now, at the end of the day, we learn later that Paul Bearer is the father. I'm already getting pissed off at this storyline. Let's just keep going.
I lost track of my... Owen and Bulldog went clean, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Okay, that was clean. So here we had an interference spot. That is the fourth interference in the show. And so Taker is caught off guard by this claim his brother's still alive. Vader bonks him from behind. Vader and Paul Bearer run for their lives. And Taker stoically ponders the possibility that his little brother might have been alive for the past 20 years.
You know, sometimes I watch things and it's like, man, you shot like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks worth of angles in one night. It's kind of like what they did here. But then it's like, they should have done it this way. Paul Bearer reveals the secret. Undertaker should have came out at the first opportunity to kill the man. Not wait till next week.
Sure.
You see a million times on these shows.
But with that said, we didn't see Kane until October.
That's right.
So they held that off for 3-4 months.
Hell of a deal.
Jim Neidhart versus Steve Austin.
Wow, this is bad.
I don't know if Jim Neidhart was always this bad. I never noticed because he's working with guys like Bret Hart and the British Bulldogs. But he has been so terrible in this 1990s comeback.
Yeah.
He was unbelievably bad here, falling down all over the place.
Well, he got blowed up.
He got blown up so bad in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you notice when Steve Austin attempted to put him in an abdominal stretch?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
The huffing and puffing he was doing.
Let me talk a little bit about Neidhart here because we were on Observer Radio the other night, actually, talking about Steve Austin and how when Steve Austin did the legendary Austin 316 promo, that is legendary today, it was not legendary at the time.
No.
The next day, he was just a fella. And slowly over time, the Austin 316 sign showed up, and then eventually he made it into something. The Austin 316 promo and the I Quit match, neither of them, when Steve Austin came back, was he a mega superstar. It wasn't until, like, right around this show, when Steve Austin came out for this match with Jim Neidhart, he was a fucking superstar. They were going crazy for the guy. And so that's the problem with Neidhart. Neidhart was old and slow and tired, and Steve Austin came out, and he was a megastar, and he was so fucking excited. He was like Dolph Ziggler. He's going 1,000 miles an hour trying to do all this shit, and Neidhart could not keep up, and he got blown up immediately.
And that's the last time you hear Steve Austin and Dolph Ziggler in the same sentence.
I hope.
So, let's see. Somewhere in here, Bret Hart jumps Ken Shamrock backstage, lays him out. He was never in Calgary at all.
See, if they were watching TV If Ken was watching TV the way they do nowadays, he would have saw him coming.
That's true. Maybe that's why they always stand now facing the
Right.
camera as a defensive move. So they say the LOD have already left the building. Goldust isn't here. Steve Austin's all alone now. Neidhart goes to a long chin lock, drenched in sweat. They have like 2 minutes to plan a spot. When they finally stand up to do it, Neidhart forgets it. So Neidhart goes back to a long face lock. And after this torture of sitting through this match, Bret just runs out and attacks Austin for the DQ.
Yeah. What
Because Lord knows you can't let Steve Austin pin Jim Neidhart.
No. Not right before the Calgary Stampede, dude.
This match went 8.5 minutes.
No, longer.
No, it went
10 minutes,
8.5
30 seconds.
The chin lock had to have been at least 8 minutes.
Wait, there was a commercial in there. So the actual match itself went 10 minutes and 30 fucking seconds.
So on Monday Night Raw, in 2 hours, we had actually only 2 distraction finishes, but 5 interference finishes.
Yep.
And they all beat up Steve until Mankind runs out and puts Bret in the mandible claw. And then all the Hearts run out to attack him. And then it ends. This show sucked.
Well, you know, it wasn't boring.
Do I need to review that Jim Neidhart match again?
Yeah, that was really bad.
It was very boring.
It was a very, very terrible main event. Why would Neidhart be in there in the go-home show for Calgary Stampede? I guess they didn't have anyone left. I mean, I don't think they wanted to do Neidhart versus Mankind.
I don't know.
That was bad.
Okay.